is up, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Skeptic and Ranting, the Tower.
How'd everybody do?
Dun dun dun. Yes, that's right. Where we are going to have, it's like a joint episode between our Skeptic and Ranting and our Skeptic Bible study, where we are going to read from the Bible, from the channel. Oh my goodness. James, Skeptic and Ranting is on. I better go watch.
Yeah, I just got the notification.
We're going to watch Studio 2115 official. If you see other Studio 215s out there, not the right ones.
What's the unofficial 215?
That's
oh,
right.
wait. Oh, no. It's just because Ken Hoven, you called his channel Ken Hoven Official, and this guy copies everything Ken Hoven did.
Oh, my goodness. I didn't even put that together.
Yeah.
That's funny. I'm just like Daddy. Won't you join James W. and myself, Amy Newman, for a good time worth falling over? Whoa. What is up, everyone? That's right. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Skeptic and Ranting. And thank you if you're out there on the intertubes. I don't even know how they make it come out of there, but somehow they do. Please.
Yes, that's right, Big Bad Mama. The Big Bad Mama remembers him. He is the guy who learned about ERVs, and actually, I think it was 3 days. But yeah,
really? He's that guy who made the. It's like
yeah. He said we could talk about ERVs. I mean, I spent 3 days looking through them and researching them, and there's nothing there. It's all nonsense.
Well, I didn't know we were working with a scholar.
I mean, the people who've been working in the field for decades, they don't think it's all nonsense, but you think it's nonsense. Huh?
Yes. Well, they go to University of Basement, and I want to say it is prestigious.
Yeah. I told my wife, I told my wife, I love you, but I really need to focus on this for 3 days. Could you please not bother me? I'll be in the basement. I mean, I'm gonna come up for some Hot Pockets and coffee, but otherwise, I really can't be disturbed for a few days. I'm really going hardcore on this ERV stuff.
Listen, James, it's not just retroviruses. It's really all about those I can't even say it now. Androgynous, thank you. I want to keep on saying androgynous. I want to keep on saying androgynous. Yeah. But it's just this little pocket that is just a very weird niche. So, like how the philosophy type of theists have gone towards the contingency argument, the creationists, that's like their new shtick, is ERVs. And I have asked people way smarter than either of us, biologists, why ERVs are like the new thing. And the general answer is because, it's an example of evolution. And you're like, okay, now I understand why it drives them crazy. But,
that is because it's a technical field. They can use lots of big words, lots of jargon, lots of things that most people don't understand. And as you always say, that is really what they're looking for, just to sound like they know what the fuck they're talking about,
James,
sound really technical. And you don't actually have to be conveying any information. It's just a bunch of techno babble that their people just eat up like, oh, wow, this guy really knows what he's talking about. That word had 6 syllables in it. I mean, he must know his stuff.
Yes. That is their ultimate goal, because you will try to listen to the word salad that comes out of their mouth, and their entire goal is to sound technical. Now, a scientist's job, generally an educator's job, or people that have learned the subject, they try and simplify things so people can understand what they're saying. But when you're a creationist and you don't actually have, what is that E word? We've been talking about E words. Evidence. Hey, there we go. We got the syllables. Oh, they don't have evidence. And so they have to just, sound technical.
It actually sometimes gets at the science side in trouble, because sometimes they do put things in very simple terms, and then the creationists like, look, he said it came from nothing, or even though in the hyper technical physics math, that's not really what it is. But when you're just trying to simplify something without 2 chalkboards full of equations, you try to simplify that. You refer to things
that
more
stuff
basically.
Drives me cray-cray. The fact that they always go for these maps, and they're like, or not even maps, they're charts. Excuse me,
like the
charts
tree of life,
graphs.
like the evolutionary tree of life. Look, yeah,
yes, and they're very good. They come from probably people that have either bachelors in the fields or are doing graduate level work, and they're trying to simplify things so that middle schoolers can understand it. But I will say, when it comes to creationists, that still goes right over the head there. Anyway, we are. I feel. I will say, we're talking about Jamie. We're talking about the Tower of Babel. We didn't even get to the like, follow, and subscribe. I'll say that more. But
just the video he did recently.
But we weren't going to talk about Jamie. Like, he's been completely off our radar.
We did a video about him maybe 8 months ago. I debated him like 7 months ago. We haven't actually done any content on him. We've mentioned him a few times. That's it.
Exactly. We've had his video where he mentions iron. That's what makes me remember him. It's such a, how should I say this? If the mean way is saying stew, and the nice way I'll say starts with sill. It's silly. Very silly claim.
He said, you can't have star formation because there's a chicken and egg problem, because you need iron to make the star, but you need the star to make iron. So how are you going to make the star without the iron? Like,
James, to have a healthy star, you got to put the iron in. Every week, you got to put new iron in.
Stars can do just fine without iron. They don't need iron to form.
The iron is literally nicknamed Star Killer, because that is
when it
the
starts
death.
Fusing iron, it kills them. Yeah, like the sun has traces of iron, but it would still be a star if it did not have that iron. It is fine without iron.
And so I was going to, lovingly mod for the fantastic and awesome. You should all check out. And it was still a good debate. I'm going to still check out. Because, James is amazing. Amazing. And so go check out MDD. But he said, because we did that video, it was gonna be very unfair. Hold on, James. Here we go.
Anybody you've seen when you mod, I mean, you really don't inject yourself into the debate very much, unless there's unless stuff is going off the rails. But
I actually feel like you have the opposite pressure. That the debaters often feel like you're trying to give benefit towards the person you agree with, but going into it, you kind of have this mentality that at least I think that you want to be fair, and so you try not to actually go too much the other way, and then you really do try, in my opinion, a good moderator tries to stay as neutral as possible, because if you have a position, let your guys speak. They better, it is their turn to do so. And the only person that you should be trying to please is the audience. That's a hard thing because you're interacting with the two debaters. And so from their point of view, they are the stars. Then they are the stars of the show. But I almost view it as a cage match. If I hear people over talking, the hardest thing is they over talk for just 1 or 2 seconds, because then saying something and now one person's just speaking. But you want to just have clear sound bites. You just want to draw people away. Anyway, he QQ'd, and I still think it was a great debate. However, that means we get to do another roasting. So here we are.
Well, he was like Ken Hovind used to say, yeah, you keep your head down. Maybe you'll stay off his radar. He won't do shows on you, but you stick your head up, and we gotta whack you down. And he did it. He didn't make this. I didn't hear, from what I heard, he didn't make you need iron to make a star. You can't have a star. He didn't do that, but he did the conservation of angular momentum, which is one of the dumbest arguments Ken Hovind makes. I know it's been pointed out to him numerous times that it's a stupid art. They don't get it. So the argument is, well, if the Big Bang is true, then everything was a dot. The dot was spinning around, and then it blew up and expanded, and then everything should be spinning the same direction as the dot. But we've got planets and moons spinning in different directions. They couldn't have come from the one dot. Jamie, the solar system formed about 5 billion years ago. The Big Bang was about 14 billion years ago. So about 9 billion years of stuff happening between the two.
Forces
our solar system
nature to interact.
Not a direct result from the Big Bang. No, not a direct result. Billions of years of other shit happening to cause things to spin in different directions. Really bad argument.
Yeah, and they just attack evolution because apparently it goes against the holy text, which, once again, that is kind of the nature of tonight, is a fable, a fairy tale. The Tower of Babel is a silly story. Speaking of silly, this is the type of physics and we're trying to deal with.
And that says a lot, because the Bible is full of stupid stories, really bad stories. This is kind of a special. This is one of the worst, of the worst of the worst stories that are just bad, demonstrably untrue, don't make any sense, and but you're just going to hear how they just gloss over that. They just say it like it makes any sense, and it's like they turn their brains off, like that critical thinking part of their brain that is saying, hey, that doesn't really make. They just turn that off, and they just. Yeah.
It does. The logistics of the story make no sense. It's like Noah with the animals suddenly eating meat after it rained. This makes no sense. This makes less sense than this somehow.
Yeah.
Oh, coffee. I just spilled coffee. Okay, James, talk for 1 second because I just spilled coffee. I'm going to finish the rest of the coffee. Kitty.
Yeah, there you go. So he's also, if you remember, he's the one who he took videos from this guy who took pictures of animal skulls and sent them to artists and said, hey, what do you think this animal would have looked like? And of course, they came up with different results. And it's like, oh, that was an elephant. And they drew things that looked nothing like elephants, as if that's how paleontology works. As if they just give random pictures to artists and say, just come up with something how you think this animal looked, which is not how they do things. Not how science works. But again, they don't have really any argument. They don't have any evidence for their position. They don't have any legitimate claims against it. So they really have to grasp at straws for these very, very these silly arguments that are so easy to debunk.
Almost all of the creationist arguments are bad.
See,
in fact,
the thing, like,
they say
we put our content out there. Like, if we got it wrong in his video, he could have tell us what we got wrong about your video, Jamie. Do it. Oh well, I don't have time to respond to you. I mean, well, okay, then don't be a bitch. Don't complain if we're saying things you don't like. And
he's always, not only is he always invited on, I think what they fear the most, James, is we would give them time to speak, and then you kind of have to defend your views. Very spooky. Halloween season in session. Very spooky.
He just takes like the worst, like the dumbest Kenobi talking points and just runs with those. And they're not even the best ones. They're some of the worst.
And like I was saying, talking to James beforehand, I guess he's got to do the Ken Hovind shtick because there doesn't seem to be a Ken Hovind anymore. The belly of the beast, James. You can't buy subscribers, it turns out. It just makes you go whoop-a-doop. Okay. But yes, we've tangented. But this was the theme of the show. Don't forget to follow on twitch.tv/ABNewmanSkeptic. Subscribe on youtube.com/ABNewman, because then you get that bell icon access that I'm not reading a script right now. Premieres or join a live stream. You know what always annoys me is when they are clearly reading a script, like a presuppositionalist is just going like boopa doopa 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 doopa, and you're like, come on, man, just speak with me, just have a one-on-one conversation, and they will not. They refuse.
Like Ken has his script, but he's got it memorized, so he doesn't have to read it. He just goes with it. But
it's on slide 71. But yes,
I mean, like Darth. Darth could have been dead. He could have died like 10 years ago, and you could, with a soundboard, you could keep the Darth act going for like 20 years, and nobody would know.
No one would know.
Just with like 30 or 40 different Darth Dawkins sound bites on a soundboard, you would never be able to tell the difference.
The fact that Peter has been able to have arguments with at least one or two atheists with the soundboard is evidence in and of itself that AI can just basically replace him at this point.
He was going for like 10, 15 minutes, not like a minute or two, and you realize, oh, something sounds off here. No, like 15 minutes.
Oh, I'm gonna ban you. I'm gonna mute one more time. We get one more chance. The funniest thing that I've seen
mute him, please.
Recently was just when he goes places and he doesn't have mod powers, and then people just mute him. It feels good when narcissists meet, any sort of resistance ever. You know what? There's also a narcissist is allergic to 2 letters, James. N-O. It's a single word. Just, it makes them, what are we talking about? Oh, if you hit the bell icon and you get reminders to see our premieres or join our live streams, James and myself can say hello to you, which is like, we're 1 billion times off. Mark Reid, don't we all babble along? Yes, we do. I was also looking at the Babel fish, which is from Douglas Adams, where it just goes in your ear. And also I learned in doing research that the word babble means jumble, and that's where the app gets its name from. It's all tongue-in-cheek. What is up, Praise Big Bad Mama? What is up, Davegar? And what the back? Woo-hoo. What is up, Doorknob Head? And Maya? And Victoria? And Farron Salas? And everybody. Captain Butt. A great name. I like, what is all we need? Our Titan Uranus is our mod. Sending just love out to him and that name, as well as Stupid Whore Energy somewhere out there in the universe. Thank you so much, Mark.
I've seen her in the SFT chat. Amy is a very fair mod. Amy is very fair.
I really do try to just give everyone the ability to speak. I think sometimes I need to be harder on actually being slightly meaner. And yeah, oh, woohoo! And speaking of kicking off super chats, thanks, James and Amy. Thank you so much, Farron. And now I'm gonna have to push things. I have my buckets. I can't help it. Buckets swing with so much fun stuff. Like this lovely, I think this is a psalm. If you guys can read this, it still registers. You guys can see it. Anyway, let's trigger creationists. Everything triggers them. And James, they are going crazy lately. I don't know what's going on.
Crazy.
Woo. But thank you so much, fam. And I think I said hi to everyone, but if I missed you, keep on saying hi to us, and we'll keep on saying hi to you. We are Skeptic and Ranting on the Tower of Babel. This is one of those examples of stories where I say, come on, Christians, come on, Jews. I'm not sure if the Muslims believe in this one. They like to retcon things they do the same story.
I'm pretty sure they
gone. They just have sometimes interesting alternate versions. But
you know how honestly, you know how this came about. I mean, you could just put yourself there. This is sitting at a campfire, and some fucking kid asks, "Rabbi, if everybody got off the ark and they all spoke the same languages, why do we all have different languages now?" And he's like, "Oh, shit, I never thought of that."
He's like, "Hold on, let me go back to the lab." Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
I got it. They were building a tower, and like God was like,
against God.
A tower, and then God was like, "What, shoop," and all the humans were like, "Whoa!" And then God's like, "Watch this," and then they looked at each other, and they're like, blah, 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 blah. It's a great story, James. It's almost as impressive as Hanukkah. Hanukkah pisses me off. Everyone has done a joke about this, but it's a holiday about a sale. Oh my God! Then we only had enough oil for one day, and it lasted 8. Jews know this. They only make Hanukkah important because it's near Christmas, and they're like, "Fine, Christmas. We're just gonna exactly."
And it's like, if your child gets sick, Amy, back then, are they going to get better? Well, maybe not, depending on God's mood, whether He feels like He wants to intervene. Yeah, no guarantees though. Maybe they'll die of a curable infection because He doesn't want them to be healed. Okay, but what? So there's only enough oil in the temple to worship me for one day, and then the worship will have to stop for 7 days until we can make more oil to continue worshiping me. That's not going to work. I am going to supernaturally make that oil last 8 days so they can continue to worship me and tell me how great I am. But fuck physics. Fuck physics. That oil is going to last, damn it. I don't care.
But there's no way they can even prove that. Who told you it was 1 day of oil? Oh, we asked Ishmael. Oh, well, Ishmael, he's fucking, he tells us the truth every time. It just, how'd you know it was just 1 day? Well, I do it I do it so much. I can tell you.
Eyeball it. You look at the the bays. You kind of just eyeball it.
Put my hand on my son's head when he's having a fever. I know every time. It's like, okay, sure. And so you know that, and you know the oil in the 8-day light thing. Okay, cool. Also,
yeah,
you were separating water. We're doing a episode on confusing the languages and then 8 days of oil. One of these things just seems less impressive. We're doing a whole tangent on this, but it doesn't matter. Tower of Babel. I mean, seriously, it's like the holiday of Costco. I'm done. I am done. I had a happy upbringing. I loved that
God
time.
Damn it, you are not going to get a week off from worshiping me and making fucking sacrifices to me. You're not going to do it. No. The sacrifices continue. The worship continues unabated. I need it.
You will worship me.
Honestly, if they weren't spending the time worship me, I mean, I don't have to. What else are they going to do with their time? I mean, it's not like they have other things to do in the world other than spend all their time telling me how great I am.
Or at least 8 days. They need at least that. They had to have candles too. They couldn't worship me without candles. That's like a thing. It's like a birthday party. You have to have candles. Anyway, wrong story, different holiday. That one equally roastable, but this one apparently is a babbling of babbles. We are a skeptic channel, including the two schmucks that you see hosting before you. However, after what these housekeepings are and our opposition viewpoint, we will be opening up the open mic so anyone can tell us what's on their mind about the topic. Or as always, creationists can try to prove God. Either or, yes, we'll give anyone the chance to have their own opening or closing statements. Atheist or theist, liberal or conservative, come as you are, just not on my sheets. I just had the femboy wash the sheets. This housekeeping, well, and actually, before I go into the shilling, can I just say one thing?
Brought to you by the femboy. This
housekeeping brought to you by femboy. That femboy, all femboys. But can I just say, and I don't know whether I should relish this because I feel like this is feeling good about something, but in a horror movie, it's about to go really worse because a pumpkin who used to be a president is about to have all of his businesses dissolved. The judge halted it for a little while. It's just random tangent. I can't help myself. It's a time. This is going to be a time mark, and I like being timeless. Timeless. But
she's going to force him to liquidate his business. He's got this.
Yes, as in they all have to do. They all are going to have to disband. As in, that is what the 2 or 3 articles that I seem to be reading, that because he overestimated by like $2.2 billion, he is being charged with inflation of his properties and defrauding the government, I believe. Please correct me if I am wrong, but that, and then the most radical form of the right wing, basically, because of the one loophole McCarthy made, he basically did this one loophole, which is, listen, vote me in, and just one of you can vote me out, or can call the motion to vote me out.
Call for a motion, right.
Call for a motion. And so...
It was kind of a silly thing to agree to, but...
They called for a motion, and the guy who it took like 15 fucking tries to get through, it's not a big surprise that, yeah, didn't last. And so it's a weird, because the people who I thought were I don't know, whatever they were going through with Trump, that I was very scared. I feel like we're in a better position than we were a few months ago to not have the country go crazy. But I don't know. That doesn't mean he can't actually win, and then everything goes.
Have you heard who they're talking about replacing Kevin McCarthy with?
Jim Jordan?
No. Did you know
Trump? Yes. No, I did see that.
Speaker of the House does not actually have to be elected as a member of the House.
I did see that. Yes.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's theoretically possible.
It's a very boring job, though. That's what we said about president. So I don't underestimate America.
He controls the House of Representatives almost completely. He controls what bills come to the floor, what gets a vote.
You get to
it's a
say,
very powerful position.
The senator from California shall be represented, and blah blah blah. And you have a gavel, and who doesn't love to play with a gavel? All right, that's enough politics. I know. I just had to do that. Around the world, it's probably not as relevant, but I just can't help. But I once this election's over, oh my goodness! Hopefully, it can just go back to normal politics. And I know to many people who dislike Trump or like Trump or something, they're like, well, it's the same right now. It's the same as ever. And, no, it's not. He's crazy. And he's not one of them. And thus he can give them whatever they want because all his only payment, like a leech, is just approval and praise and loyalty. Things that don't really matter about politics. It's something I fear because you can give people who are. I get you. Hey, and the other thing. This is my last point of politics, and my other big fear was it's going to be because of us. The LG. I didn't talk. We haven't. It's been an entire episode. We haven't talked about the LGBTQ agenda. That does not exist. That's not really a thing. We were looking for just staying alive. And that kind of ended. Like we had Numa with gay marriage. And then, we were dabbing when, we were getting our transgenders rights into the military. And now everything is just their Civil War culture shit that they want to come back and have a reactionary. Anyway, we're going to put this bow. I'm going to put the bow. Whoop, 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 whoop. That's enough whoops. Sending love to all of our supporters. To all there's many ways you can support the show. You can send in super chats, sending so much love to Parent Salas out there. And you can also send a super thanks if it's post show and you're on the re-upload crew. And you can also join channel membership right down there. Many lovely, amazing channels. Speaking of which, I saw Beamsy out there. Sending love to Beamsy. And everyone. And I see Flum and Purple Rhymes with our engine. Or is this oh my goodness, that's the do. I'll fix that in a second. Sending so much love. It's the wrong chat. I'm like, why is this chat like so? I was looking. I have two screens, and I like to have chat on my other screen. And I realized that I was watching a old episode, and it was just going through the screen.
Really?
Woo! I mean, no, I would never do that. God equals the square root of -1. Slicey slicer. Now I can see everyone. Sending so much love. Every once in a while I would see it on my full screen, but there should be a correlation. Correlation isn't always causation, though. There's an example. Also, with our evolving badge system, evolution really does trigger. It's a proxy war. It's their Vietnam. They don't want to talk about religion because you can't sound really fancy with theology. You have to go to philosophy. You have to be like, oh, come on, let's talk about our foundation. Let's talk about our ontology. How do you even know what you know? Can you talk about where does your epistemology even come from? Yes. So really, they can't even sound technical with theology. They have to say the word they just have to say Thomas Aquinas. If you just say his name, that sounds kind of fancy. Have you heard about Shroud of Turin?
Justin
Sending love to Pat. He's out there. Sending love to also Pastel. Dr. Josh, just because I remember him right now. So many saints. And then they have a saint if you lose something, which is basically just replacing the Pantheon. You can see the transition through religion, with Judaism, with the many gods, and then you have the Catholics with this type of Pantheon system, and eventually they just get over here with the free-balling what the heck is this version of Christianity called? No, what's the opposite of Catholic? What's the two competing? Protestantism. Yes, thank you. Whew. Let me tell you something. I learned all this stuff post 20 years old, because I didn't know when Christmas was before for a dozen plus years. But because it's just the holiday, we get off on the thing and the things. Patreons. You can check out clickety clack. Mark told me how to turn this off, and I should have done it, and then I forgot the thing. And it worked really well when he showed it to me too behind it. But anyway, Patreon. /Amy Newman. There it is, and you get access to VIP as well as our new show Patreon-a-thon, which we should be doing maybe I'll do that during the week, and I'll just rant into the interwebs. What is up, Wilberforce? What is up, Ian Davenport? Woo! And much love to all. Speaking of which, we have many lovely supporters like Rachel Holen, the fabulous Rachel Holen, reminding us that you don't have to go around to your nations to, collect slaves. You can just go to a fet club. Get your kink on. It's okay. Rentafemboy.com. Oh, James. I need to create this. Sending so much love to Rachel Holland.
Don't worry, Amy. They have a loyalty program. So you get all kinds of perks and benefits. And
oh, my God, James. I got a free femboy. As well,
like Oprah. Amy's gonna be Oprah. Like, you get a femboy, you get a femboy. Yeah. Amy's giving out femboys to everybody.
Look under your seat. There's a femboy. What? Oh my goodness! I knew
Look in your bed, Kent. There's a femboy, and Kent's like, "Oh, I know he's there."
If we were to look in like very specific people, like Matt Powell, and I'm sure a bunch of others. Well, we already know what is
like Mr.
It's a Mr. Batman. Oh, Mr. Batman.
How many femboys would you say you have on your phone contact list right now?
I love
the dozens.
Is it dozens? Is it hundreds. Every time I talk to him, he now gets super triggered just instantly about me being transgender. Starts with it's not even that the misgendering, because I just giggle. I just have to just ask him how many D's he sucked. And he gets very quiet, and then he says, we're all sinners. Oh, I do declare we are all
more
sinners.
Than you. I have sucked more than you, sir.
And I just have to say, listen, I'm not judging anyone's sexuality, but I have heard always.
He might think he can do a better job than you. He might.
This is an intellectual podcast.
He might think he can do it better than you.
My question, James,
is do a contest with him to see who is better at it.
But see, my question is, do they really convince themselves that they like straight sex? Like, do they sit there with a woman and just go, I'm having a great...
This couldn't be any better. I don't know why I ever was gay. This is just so great.
I do not know why I was ever gay. It's a little squishy down there, but I love it. I love it for the Lord. But, this is why you gotta be bi, James. It's the best of both worlds. You're like, I'll take your word for it. It's okay.
Yeah, well, I'll read it in your book.
See, but that's the difference between, I guess, a secure heterosexual man and like these closeted. I was gonna use the F word. These closeted men are almost always men. Like they seem angry, James. They just always seem.
Well, I mean, why else would you find gay couples to harass? Like, they're not bothered.
Oh my goodness! Exactly, he harassed a lesbian couple.
Yeah, they're just out there doing their thing, living their life, and you want to go and you want to mess with them because how dare you live the way you want to live? Because I'm not doing it. I'm manned up and
I am a man.
Became straight. I tell myself every day I'm straight, and if I keep telling it, maybe one day I'll become straight.
I get on my knees for the Heavenly Father every day, and I tell him, oh, I fear you, and I will obey.
Worship already done. I'm already there, God.
I have to just bring this up because it actually kills me in the heart. Speaking in like the opposite direction, Kat Von D became a Christian. She was she's a tattoo artist, and she was into witchcraft. I'll say the same thing that I heard.
YouTuber, or where do you know her from?
Kat Von D is she's a fairly famous tattoo artist. And so she had a TV show, I think. And she was just one of those people that was very much into the occult. I don't know what the occult means, really, because that generally, where's my Ouija board? That's what I think of when people tell me they're into the occult. Nonetheless,
it's not really well defined. It's an umbrella term. Could be any number of things.
It could be, James, but isn't that religion? It can be whatever you want. It's a cafeteria. Just pick a little of this, a little of that. You don't have to prove any of this stuff.
Doesn't actually have to make sense. No.
Exactly. But yes, I also saw other news articles that said atheism is gaining worldwide, ladies and gentlemen. Including here in the States. You're not going to be able to
stop atheism.
Can't stop me now. Having such a trademark song. I'm going to cough. There we go. I would say it would be ASMR, but I'd rather block it. It's probably not sexy. It's not like you are such an amazing...
Did you say gay SMR?
Gay SMR.
What is that? I've never done that before.
Well, we can try it naked. Sir.
That sounds fun.
If they would just come out of the closet, we wouldn't have to.
A mighty big bulge down there, sir. If I don't say so myself, sir.
Mighty
you are
big.
definitely nice and healthy down there, sir.
Yes. I'm a prophet. Do you mind if I
of course
guess your future? Yeah, that sounds like a man's job. I'm a heterosexual man.
All straight guys suck dick. That's how you know a guy's really straight.
Exactly. You wouldn't want to get any of those cooties.
You wouldn't want a woman to do that, would you?
Sending love, Wilberforce, and yes, slowly and tenderly. Anyway, and with Rachel by my side, probably both of us. And sending love to all of you out there in chat, and Rachel and davegar. We saw him out there, woo-hoo, reminding us that the world is round. I always like the subtle, pause when skeptics and atheists and non-believers ask theists, especially of the Abrahamic variety, what shape the earth is. There's always a very subtle, yes, it's round. I guess I'll have to believe, agree with that scientific fact.
There's a geocentrism debate coming up on SFT again. That one Catholic guy who's a geocentrist.
A geocentrist thinks that I can't even remember. This is where my brain has completely melted. What is that Pokemon? I know you're not going to know, James, but someone in chat. It's the giant rock guy where he goes like this. Meanwhile, sending so much love, davegar. Sending love to Chris, that's a Geodude. Thank you so very much, Mark Reid and davegar. Geo. Oh my goodness. I don't know. That's definitely dating ourselves. But I grew up when Blue and Red first came out, okay? When Pokemon started to be a thing. I was that generation. And sending love. I'm sure a lot of you were too. It's a good time having that Game Boy. I'm not going to say it was simpler times, because I've found everyone says that. It was simpler times because we were children. That's how it works. Everyone, I'm not going to, because I've heard other people say that, I now know that it's both true and not true at the same time. As in, it's not a universal truth. It's truth because we were children and life was simpler. People were paying bills for us. Boo-boo-doo-doo. Oh my goodness. I finally have chat back at my side. I can see things again. Sending so much love.
She's back.
She's back. Stupid whore energy. Woo! Wait, I have to go back. Further. You beautiful biatch. Sending so much love. Who I don't tell Titan. Well, I'm still gonna give you, you both are going back and forth for the best name ever. But I mean, you can't really compete with a stupid whore energy. I just love hearing her name each and every time, especially the more formal. Titan's like, hey, I am here. I am queer. And I am going to put my name in the hat for the best name ever. But it is. I can't help. But just
Donnie just says SWE. He won't say the whole name.
Really? Oh, that's funny. Because there's just too much goodness in that name. Doesn't want to say it all. It's like getting your calories in. Stupid whore energy. And then I love watching the interlocutors giggle like, ee! And then I like watching her give a super technical question. Their face go, it's the little things in life. Hello, humans. Exactly. So, for a lovely and amazing and a fabulous another $5 super chat. How do you get nuclear fusion without fission bomb for energy? It's true. I'm fairly sure that the way to make that a physical interaction would be to have a lot of energy from a whore. This is what we're here for, ladies and gentlemen. The level of intellectualism, but I can't help it. I really do love her name, and her aim. Because she does ask pointed questions. Amy should know. That's right. Titan is always watching. What is up, Carrie? What is up, everybody? If a Mystic keeps saying ya. Chris Disciple, shout out, amazing. Sending love to Chris Disciple, reminding us we have skeptic theists out there, Christians, Jews, Muslims. Apparently, I just keep on thinking about our lovely Tower of Babel guy over there. As long as you don't think that stars they make iron. As long as you don't think that iron is what makes a star flourish, we're doing good. We can still be friends, but we're going to have a talk if we think that iron makes a star once again grow. Well, I guess if an explosion is growing. Sending so much love, Chris Disciple. He gives us so much love. We're sending so much love to him. What is up, Jester Lord of Fools, Skeptics, and Scoundrels? Everybody sending so much love. Dale Pastel, we're looking for a little bit of empirical evidence, and it triggers them every time that we ask. We say we want empirical evidence, and they say, is that your only standard? Well, I mean, I guess you can make magic a standard, but can you put it in front of us first? They did all the cool magic tricks thousands of years ago. Now we just get the wish versions of it. The second tier, sending so much, but none of our supporters or viewers are second tier. Sending love to Davegar. Everyone loves Creaky Sound Chair. Sending so much love to...
Oh, yes, they love it.
It's opposite ASMR. Sending so much love to Regis. We have not only a skeptic Bible study. I was almost going back and forth whether to make this like a skeptic Bible study extra content, because we are apparently. Here's the thing: in the Tower of Babel, it's pretty short. He goes into all the begots, but
it's not very long.
Which is another thing that kills me. There's so much of the Bible.
They just need a chapter to explain why everybody speaks a different language. They weren't trying to really give any extra information that you could use to try to say that it didn't happen.
Exactly. So they're like, let's just get this out of the way so we can go back to exposition. Like, who we got this person, who we got this person.
The more details you give, the more that it becomes falsifiable. So.
And they're all like past 100 years old. Though I will say, everyone, on that part, we are totally going 1.5. Not the beat of the story, just, and then Sarah begot William, and then, sending love to, and then
she was
Billy
95 years old when he was 187, and then Bob had Peter when he was 530 years old.
Peter, you have Peter. It's probably a terrible impression, but there you go, ladies and gentlemen. It was an effeminate version of Peter Griffin. Sending love to, last but not least, Ian Davenport, reminding us that apologetic arguments suck, and all we're going to get is the contingency argument now. Listen, I actually like the contingency argument because I like talking about what's necessary, because I think that we are necessary for their God to exist. And so if you can just, their entire argument just necessitates that it has to be on this non-contingent thing that they just assert is non-contingent. Everything has to be contingent except this, the God thing. Oh.
And that is not a special pleading.
Not so. Oh, and exactly. And then we get from Orange Jello, sending love, Orange Jello, that, it's not special pleading. It's just special. He literally said it's special. Okay.
Yeah. No. Darth calls it, he says, he's like, that's a category error because you're putting God in a different category. You're putting him in a category of limited beings. That's like his way of dancing.
He's extremely limited.
You're saying, no, none of these rules apply to God.
Can't lift the bottle. Make God lift the bottle. Okay. I'm going to be right back 1 second. And then we're going to go into round 2. I have like the 5-second opener. And then we're going to watch the opposition viewpoint. Because we apparently, out of nowhere, we just decided to have this channel. I mean, and James, it's the official channel. That's what I like about what we're about to watch, is that we're going to watch Studio 215 official.
It's not a counterfeit. It's not
counterfeit.
Not
we had to go through a lot. There were so many unofficial Studio 215 channels, but we finally got the right one. I'll be right back.
Nailed it. Happy Friday, everybody. Coming into the weekend. Good to see everybody out there. See if Amy's got this Sunday, as she does a lot of Sunday streams. We'll see if she's got one of those coming up. Yeah, she was going to mod a debate on MDD tonight, and it didn't work out because the guy here, she wasn't able to mod. He didn't like it because we did a video about him like 8 months ago, 7-8 months ago, and he didn't think Amy would be fair. So, well, just got back on our radar, decided to check out what's going on in his channel, and saw this lovely ditty. Thought it would be a great idea. We haven't talked about the Tower of Babel in a while. Great idea to talk about why it's one of the dumbest stories in the Bible. Almost alone, standing on its face, it validates the Old Testament as any type of reasonable accounting of human history. It's certainly not. Yeah, he was, Mark. And he did an abysmal performance tonight on MDD. He takes some of like the worst Ken Hovind arguments, because 90% of his material is straight from Ken. He takes like some of the worst arguments and runs with them. Like all Ken Hovind arguments are bad, but there's some that are just in that extra category of just being so ridiculous, and those are the ones that he likes to run with. Yes, Gizmo, I know. Tell me about it. Everybody is doing good today. SWE. Yeah, and he started this debate off. He started with Ken Hovind's levels of evolution and let's see, thermodynamics, that it contradicts that law, this law. Just really silly arguments that he makes. It's yeah, say hi to your fans, Gizmo. It's really, really silly. He that's why we haven't really gone back to him, because really wasn't. And we don't necessarily like to dogpile on people and just do tons of content focused at any one person. But apparently it struck a chord. So we have more work to do. But we're going to do it. But if he wants to come on and tell us why we're wrong, then we'll give him all the time in the world to make that case. We got good to see you out there, P-Town, who usually makes arguments that are at least a little bit more logical, reasonable than some of the ones we're going to be dealing with tonight. But this video is going to be a really good example of how they approach this topic, how they approach their Bible. And it is almost like they turn off all their normal mental faculties, all their critical thinking skills. They just shut all that off. They just take it completely at face value. They don't ask any questions. They just believe it because they believe it, and because they choose to believe it. And yeah, misrepresenting evolution. So they expand that scope to everything. That's why I forget who it was, but somebody debated Ken Hovind. He did an amazing job because he started off. He said, "I accept Ken Hovind's definition of evolution," and then he went in a thing talking about cosmology, the Big Bang, star formation. And Hovind's like, whoa. We're here to talk about evolution. You're here to present evidence for evolution or not. It's like, but Ken, no. You're the guy who says all this stuff is part of evolution. So we're talking about that. And okay, Ken. So when it's other people talking, then we can narrow it down to biological evolution. But when he wants to talk, he doesn't have an answer for something. He wants to talk about fucking rocks. And, well, you guys don't know how life formed, or you don't know where the energy came from for the Big Bang, and there are things you guys don't know. Well, yeah, there are things we don't know. How the diversity of life happened is not one of those things. We do actually know how that happened. We have not answered every question, but religion has not led us to any of the right answers, never led us to anything right. Science has not answered all questions. There are still more to answer, always. But does a hell of a lot better job than religion. Yeah, he mentioned the conservation of angular, one of the dumbest arguments Ken Hovind makes. If you guys weren't here before, that is when Ken Hovind says, if universe, if everything was a spinning dot, the dot blew up and expanded, because they don't like to use the word explosion. Whatever, we'll go with that. But it expanded rapidly, and then all the planets and stars and galaxies all formed. Then why are there stars spinning different directions, and planets and galaxies? They all spin different directions. How could that be? They should all be spinning at the same direction, as if all the planets and stars today formed as a direct result of the Big Bang. Not even close. That argument is just technical enough to sound sort of technical, but it's not technical enough that people can't understand it. But it's just so... But it's like, if you want to have an answer for a lot of these questions, they're out there, very easy to find. You have to tell yourself that the only thing you conclude is they don't have answers because they don't want answers. They just want an excuse not to believe in science and reality. They just want to have something, and they're not really willing to look into it, to investigate it, because that would be the worst thing in the world. Because then you wouldn't be able to use it anymore. You have to come up with something else. Was like watching the debate that was Grayson was had on Base Theory on the Exodus with C.J. Cox, the Synecode, who is actually normally one of the more reasonable debaters on their side. But it's interesting because in that debate, CJ, the Christian, he didn't want to like defend everything like the way the Bible he believes it. Like, no, literally the Bible is 100% accurate, Word of God. But when we start talking about the numbers of people and when that starts to become an issue, well, I mean, you could have an Exodus without having that many people, right? So I'm not tied down to that. No, but you do think it's the truth. Well, yeah, but I mean, for a debate, for the sake of a debate, you could have an Exodus with a smaller amount of people. You don't need that many to have an Exodus. But that's not what you believe. You believe the Bible is 100% right. You just can't defend it. It says some really absurd things, really silly things. Exodus, another one of those just ridiculous stories. And when they approach it like the way Grayson approaches it, just talking about it from like a logistical evidentiary standpoint, but actually take the story apart and like look at it is really, really it's really a no artful way to say it. It really is just a crock of shit. But it encapsulates the entire religion. It encapsulates everything that they believe, and you can see that in the Exodus, in the story. It gives you everything you need to know. For the Exodus, Exodus happens. People are in Egypt. Well, they're enslaved there. Well, wait, how did they get to Egypt? Well, that's in Genesis. God had an elaborate plan to go. Amy's back. God had an elaborate plan to get them into Egypt. You need them all in Egypt. Well, why? Well, so they could be enslaved, of course. So, there you go. You had this famine, and you had Joseph sold into slavery. Jacob was giving Joseph special favor. All his other brothers didn't like it, so they decided to sell him as a slave. And then Joseph became the best slave in Egypt. But Joseph's master's wife, that whore, she wanted to have sex with Joseph, and Joseph is an honorable man of God. He is not going to have sex with a married woman. He's not going to commit adultery. That would be horrible. Yeah, thank you, Dingy. But so therefore, but the master knows. Oh, Joseph really. So the whore, she says, "Oh, he tried to rape me," because he turned her down. And then, of course, the master knows that my wife is a lying whore, because of course that's how they think of all women. But anyway, they so he didn't believe his wife. Line. He knew she was full of shit. So he didn't kill Joseph, as would have been the case. He would normally have immediately killed him. But he just had him imprisoned and whatever. He met the baker, the Pharaoh's baker, and the Pharaoh's cupbearer. One of them ended up dying, and he predicted which one of them would die. And so people told the Pharaoh, this guy he can read dreams. The Pharaoh's like, well, that's funny because I've been having all these weird dreams, and maybe he can tell me what they mean. And he tells the Pharaoh, and the Pharaoh's like, oh, fuck yes, this is right. This is what these dreams mean. I'm going to make you the second most powerful person in Egypt. You're not a slave anymore. You run this shit now. Yeah, you basically run the shit. And then you're going to save up all this grain because God's going to send a famine. Millions of people going to starve. But Egypt will have food. So therefore, I can get my people into Egypt for the food so they can be enslaved. And therefore, they will need me to rescue them from that slavery that I got them into in the first place. And then I will have them then spend eternity thanking me for that rescue job. Yeah.
And he'll continually say, I will turn this minivan around and send us back to Egypt. Well, not us, you. Do.
God gets this Moses guy. He gets him and go to Pharaoh, say, let my people go. But he makes sure Pharaoh doesn't. He specifically intervenes so that Pharaoh will not do it. Therefore, God will be able to rain down death and destruction on the people of Egypt, most of whom have no say whatsoever whether the people let go or not, but they will still get fucked with by all these plagues. Because the worst thing that can happen is if the Pharaoh just, well, God's would be able to kill people and causing suffering and misery, and he's having lots of fun doing it. Well, for his glory, though. It's for his glory. He's got to crush his enemies so that he can be revered. It's important to him. So he's got to have enemies to crush. So all these plagues, and after a while, okay, all right. He does his grand finale. He kills the firstborn of Egypt. He, rains death and suffering on a scale that no one's
because
ever
he's
known
the God
before.
of love.
Oh yeah, he's the God of love, and Pharaoh might have let him go, but he stepped in so they wouldn't, so he could kill all those firstborn. And then the people, they do the golden calf thing, and it's a ridiculous story, front to back. No part of it actually makes sense.
The rock is technically, they tell us this is what atheists believe our grandfathers and grandmothers are. But right now, this is just the heart of Pharaoh. What is Pharaoh's name, as James said? Whatever. He's billed as Pharaoh. Look, God made his heart hard because once again, we have free will or some bullshit.
Moses, go talk to the Pharaoh. Tell him to let your people go, but I'm going to make sure he doesn't. We apologetics like, oh, well, no, you see, the Pharaoh, he hardened his own heart, and then God came in after the fact and hardened it, but he did it first. So, well, but if his heart was already hardened, why would God have to go and double harden it?
Also, it happens multiple times. They're always like, well, he just got his free will kind of like obliterated once. And no, it was multiple times throughout the story. He kept on trying to let the Jews go. Yes, the first few chapters or whatever, he was like, oh, no, I kind of want these slaves because, slaves. And then eventually he's like, you know what? God is kind of doing all this shit to my people, and I'm going to be a leader. Please, Jews, go. And every time, God hardens his heart so that he says, you know what? No, Jews, you now have to stay. Even to the point where to his death, the last final time, the Jews are leaving, and he's like, all right, at least that's over. And God hardens his heart again.
Go back and try to take him back.
And that's where the famous scene of the water going back and up and then coming back down on them. Gotta love, ladies and gents.
No actual evidence for any of this, but the faith dies hard. What can we say?
Oh my God!
It's just a ridiculous story.
We need to make a movie called Faith Die Hard now.
At least the analogy always. This is it's like God gathering everybody on a boat, sailing us out to the middle of the ocean, throwing everybody off. Throws out enough life preservers so that maybe 10% of the people can actually get a hold of one and be pulled onto deck. And then as soon as they get back up on deck, he's like, I just saved you. You need to fucking get on your knees and start thanking me and continue doing that forever. I could have let you drown. I could have just saved somebody else. I saved you, though. Yeah, I saved. You better thank me, bitch.
You better thank. But okay. What is up? Sending love, Deacon, Pragmatic, Dingley. What is up, Jester? What is up, Free Rebel, P-Town? Everybody, skeptics and scoundrels. If I didn't say your name or if we didn't say your name, send love out there. I'm going to do a very quick. I want to get back in the habit of doing this, though, just a very quick intro. And not an intro. That's the wrong way of saying it. I'm going to have a minute thing on this, and then we're going to go into the opposition viewpoint. Let's do it. Woo! The Tower of Babel. The story of God having small dick energy. If you're not familiar with it, humans who had recently discovered world peace were working together to
what? Working together? What?
Dare they? Yeah, they were actually doing the, I'm trying to think what they call it. Get shit done. Lord knows God wasn't doing anything. So humans had come together to build a tower. Oh, it really is. It's phallic. Oh my goodness. Anyway, as far as they could go. Why were they building the tower? Who knows? And why not?
It's tall. It's big. Why not?
Honestly, as much as a joke, that has been like half of like the discoveries in human history. Why are you climbing Mount Everest? I don't know. It's cool. So they're building this. But do it. We roast it, but only gently. That's half the reason why I do shit. And that's why God doesn't seem to be zapping us yet. That seems to be the moral of this story. Spoiler alert. So they're building this tower, talking to each other, having a grand old time. When out of nowhere, a giant 1,000-foot or whatever it's called out there hand comes crashing inwards, or something heavy, that destroys said tower. Basically, because humans were outpacing the wizard in the sky. But to add insult to injury, the sky wizard went and made everyone's language different. No, yours is going to be different. Yours is going to be different. Thus, they could not speak to each other. And of course, they couldn't build a big tower. Then they would scatter across the land. Or at least that's the history lesson we get from fables like the Tower of Babel, which, as most Jewish and Christian scholars of any integrity will point out, did not happen in real life, because that's not how language works. In fact, we know the evolution of languages as it developed among other animals, as we banded together as a social species, and then separated outwards across the continents. Spanish stems from Latin. English stems from Germanic. And so forth, all across the world. You know where it doesn't come from? Say it with me. It rhymes with lizard in the sky, custard in your pie. It's definitely not a wizard in the sky.
It's custard in your mustard. That was the.
But yes, thank you.
Custard.
Mustard and custard. James, what that is about all of these 2,000 years they've had to realize that this stuff, boobity, is nonsense. And all right, we're going to bring up the opposition viewpoint now.
Oh boy.
We're going to be
not
talking
very long. So.
Yes. And a third of it we're going to play on 1.5. We're going to play most of it actually on regular speed to get all of the filet mignon, but we have to cut around because they're still fat, which is the begatting. There's like, God just has two versions, which is killing everybody and exposition. Those are literally the only two things. Do. And with that, from Studio... Oh, let me...
215.
Oh, I didn't... See, I didn't... I know, but see, I'm waiting. I can't help it. I wait to say it. But even though I haven't been cutting them up, I need to be cutting them up properly. But here we go. From Studio 215. What, James?
Official? Can you hear me?
There we go. Yes, it went out or it wasn't saying it. But that's okay. It was worth the wait. That's right. We have the official version. And we are going into the Tower of Babel as it's such a wonderfully informative story. Oh, my. What is up, Pat?
The Bible is just full of history.
Love.
The Bible is just full of so much accurate history and science. It's an amazing book.
Yeah, and we can definitely tell it from this story, which has about as much science as, I guess, giants, which I get into all these arguments about giants now.
Didn't the linguist confirm that everybody until about everybody spoke one language until about like 4,000 years ago, and then all of a sudden they all just popped up out of nowhere? All the other languages completely intact. That's how it happened,
languages.
Right? Just poof. Yeah.
Before that's what they say about bones. Oh, look at the bones. But they're like, yeah, you look and it's just a big pile of bones. You're like, no? What were you looking at, a sandbox? No, it looks like layers. Looks like a geological column.
Let me tell you about that flood.
And hold on. I have to, James, talk about something because I have to put on a new pair of socks because now I'm a little bit.
I see. Go ahead. Beamsy posted memes on Twitch.
He is now. Let me see. Let's see. Oh my goodness. That is fantastic. I can pin that. Boom.
You have to train the children like you train children like, look, okay, these are two things. We put reality on one side and we have God in another. Okay, when reality, you can ask questions, you can use critical thinking, you can evaluate and make decisions, but with the God thing, no, you can't. It doesn't matter if it makes sense. You just better believe that it's true. We can't prove it to you. Don't have the evidence, but he will burn the fuck out of you forever if you don't just believe it.
And ever and ever and ever. And as they often point out, they oftentimes say with glee, they're like, and after 1,000,000 years, it's just beginning for you. Okay.
So that was the thing. That was the meme, though.
But
that was a meme that Praise posted. Like it was like a week ago on his thing. Like I'm praying everybody that you guys wake up and don't go to hell, because 100 trillion years later, you'll still just be getting started.
Okay, so how do we find that God, and how do we capture them? Bring them to justice, I think is that word they like to use. Anyway, sending so much love out to stupid horror energy. It's telling us to show feet, and I have nice clear socks. I am totally gonna fall over. Hold on. Watch
Don't
this.
do it, Newman.
I know, but see, I don't know if I can do feet. I did it last time, though. Hold on. I got this. Yes, there we go. Sending so much love to stupid heart energy. Listen, I stand by it. This is a high-level show. We are here to raise our epistemological toolkits. We are, James. I'm sending so much love to stupid heart energy. Who I continually will not only thank, but remind everyone that I love hearing her name in every debate, just because of the technical questions that she brings almost always to creationists, and they have to, I guess, mumble her name as they try to answer her question. It's stuck in my head. Anyway, we are going to get into it. We're going to listen to him read I wasn't going to say defend the Tower of Babel, but it is him with his whatever, the commentary. So we're getting into it. The Tower of Babelfish.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the studio. I'm super excited to bring you the 11th video in our Bible study series on Genesis. If you enjoy these videos, we will be having live sessions of these Bible studies on my Discord every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So if you're interested in being a part of that, you can click the link in the description of this video to join the Studio 215 official Discord server. As the Discord server grows, we will be using it for a lot more than just these Bible studies, so I highly recommend you go join now to see what God does with this ministry as we continue to plant seeds.
Also, a shout out to Skylar Fiction, who I know has also been doing more Discord content. I should go on there more, and I know the 11th video, we skipped from 1 to 10. This was juicy
special one. Well, you go back a few seconds, Amy. There you go.
Join now to see what God does with this ministry as we continue to plant seeds in a world that is going through a spiritual famine.
Amy likes to plant seeds too.
But only our Lord.
I do. I hate that terminology, though, the planting seed. I don't know if he's that type of pastor, but if he is,
Savior, Jesus Christ, can provide. Now that we got all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with the next episode of our Bible study in the book of Genesis, chapter 11.
Critical thinking turned off.
Indeed. I'm excited.
The book of Genesis, chapter 11, verses 1 and 2. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there.
So they're all speaking one language. They're all chilling. Life is pretty good. What could go wrong?
In verse 1, we are seeing the description of the city of Babel. The whole world was under one language and one speech. As we look at the symbolic nature of these verses, you will see a lot of similarity between Babel and the prophecy of a one-world government that is unfolding in front of us today. Next, in verse 2, the Bible says, and it came to pass. All throughout the Bible, you'll see that.
Kidney stone, yeah.
Exactly. Somehow, he is now trying to tie this to Jesus, even though this took place 1,000+ years before,
Yeah. Everything goes
Great.
back to Jesus.
This is a comforting reminder to those who have accepted Jesus Christ as their Savior. No matter what struggle or fear you may face in this world, one way or another, it will pass, and we will still have the promise of everlasting life. Verses 3.
I don't think there was ever really one language, or I would like to see evidence for something like that. I mean, humans are just been too far spread out. It doesn't work like that.
You know how these languages evolved, where they came from.
As different groups of people built forms of communication, and then they eventually interacted with each other. It's almost the exact opposite in that they had multiple cultures, and then
if you separate people completely for enough time, the languages will diverge and become different over time. It's evolution, the exact same model.
3 and 4. And they said one to another, "Go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly." And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, "Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us."
Okay. Can we see which word? Yeah, I mean, you can't build a tower up to apparently the place where only God can. Now, God lives everywhere, but also like really in heaven, because that's the place where you can't see him.
Listen to what he says right here.
"Make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth." In these verses, we see the people of Babel gather together to build a tower to heaven. But what's real interesting is how the Bible shows us the pride in the people's hearts. Let us make a brick and mortar. Let us make a name for ourselves.
Yeah, let us, because who else is going to be doing shit for us, Amy? Who's going to make brick and mortar? Who's going to build the hospitals? And it's just us, right?
Yeah, it seems to be only us. It seems like there isn't any God coming down there. Really
so that hospital in your community, Jamie, where you can go when you get sick, that's built with brick and mortar and all that, that was built by humans. Whether or not they believe in God is irrelevant. That was built by humans. So is that prideful? Is that an evil act, a horrible thing that work of evil to build a building? Because God ain't gonna do shit for us. Even if he's there, he apparently doesn't.
Also, I think she's been here for a while. I didn't shout her out. What is up, Sumami? What is up, everybody?
Hey,
we are watching the Tower of Babel, where, apparently they scattered the language, and we have to listen to them say that science is a fairy tale. But sure, okay.
Let us reach heaven our own way. Although this was a literal event in history, the Tower of Babel is also symbolic of the idea of self-made salvation. Some people think they can work their way to heaven, but when people trust in their own works for
some people think that when you do your best and work with your teammates, you could achieve a lot. Jesus says, and God says, apparently, because not really Jesus. I think he's just making that. Yahweh, jealous, says, you can off, as he's about to do soon.
Salvation, they are not trusting in the Savior, Jesus Christ. One thing we all need to understand is that since the beginning of time, salvation has never been obtained by our good works.
I like how this is just like the faith versus works battle, because it annoys me so much that they're like, you could do as many good things as you want. If you do not believe in the long hair rabbi coming back from the dead 72 hours after composition, you are going to hell. Doesn't matter if you are a serial killer or if you do charity work every day, there is one metric. Hey, hey, hey. Yeah, this is what I find so strange. And you know, they take a pride in it. And they're like, faith over works. That makes so much sense. The works people are such. I don't know how to not strawman them. I just don't understand how you could be against people doing good things. Whatever.
Salvation has always been by faith in God's promise.
Because they're trusting their works,
grace and mercy is the only thing that can give us the gift of eternal life. We cannot sufficiently build it for ourselves. So God told everyone to be fruitful, multiply, and spread across the earth in the previous chapters. But instead, they united under one language and culture to build a tower that reaches heaven.
Well, because Amy, like, I kind of want my people to be in separate groups so I can have one group of people fight against the other people. But if they're all acting as one, then I can't have tribalism. And I really wanted like to pick one group of people out and have them go and kill a bunch of other groups of people. But I mean, they're all working together. They're like, they don't want to kill each other.
I know that the word literally gets overused, but as far as we can tell, literally, the humans have all come together and are working together to achieve something greater than themselves, right?
And we're going to see what he calls that in a second here, yeah.
This was direct rebellion, just like how today many people know exactly what it is God wants them to do, and they just don't care. At the end of verse 4, they actually confirmed this was direct rebellion by saying, "Lest we be scattered abroad upon the face."
Go figure. I mean, people they want to live their life. They want to do what they want to do. They want to pursue what makes them happy. They want their life to be about themselves. And how they want to live. I mean, how evil. That's fucked up. Your life is not about you. Don't matter. You don't matter. You're insignificant. You're nothing. Only reason you exist is to tell God how great he is. That's it. Fuck you.
And I was gonna say literally, but a very physical, because he used to be physical, apparently, and be able to interact in the world
of the whole earth. This was them saying, God said this, but instead we're going to do the opposite. And
because what God said doesn't make any fucking sense.
This was an act of war.
Yes. This is an act of war for the people against God. Oh my.
This is an act of war. So when we mastered building technologies that were able to build buildings much taller than this tower would have been, was that an act of war against God? Did God have to intervene to stop construction of the Empire State Building? Was that building a threat? Or the Sears Tower? Was that building a threat that people are going to be walking up to heaven? How about in the 1780s when we built hot air balloons? Was that a threat to God? Were people going to fly up to heaven? Was that an act of war? Or when the Wright brothers in the early 1900s had their planes, was that an act of war, Amy? Did God have to, oh no, they're coming for me. They're going to invade heaven. I don't want to walk around and see, drunk bums lounging around heaven like they own the place. When we mastered rocket technology and sent people into space in the 50s, was that any act of war?
Can we also point out how God is completely MIA now that we've gone past the clouds? Does that not point anything out that we can do better than what these people have done?
Well,
not saying it wasn't impressive.
This is what R and Ra says is like, we used to think gods were on the mountains until we climbed the mountains and saw there's nobody there. Then they lived in the sky until we flew up to the sky and didn't see anybody up there. And Now we've built telescopes that can look billions of light years away. And you know what we don't see up there? We don't see any fucking gods. We see lots of empty space, stars, galaxies, no gods. Oh, well, yeah, he you can't find him up there. He's like in some other dimension, and you could never actually go there to see if he's there or not. So, but
if we could go like outside of time and space, they would say that he's outside of the whatever dimension or multiverse.
He's outside of that.
It just
he's outside
continues.
Of that.
Exactly.
Right. He's just
what is
further beyond the reach. Not to, they never prove he exists. They just make it so you can't falsify him. You can't actually.
That's the whole point.
He's not
exactly.
There. And but here's the thing: this story doesn't make if God's in some other dimension and you can build a tower, you can go anywhere. This story acts like this is an actual threat to God. Like they are going to be people walking.
Hold on 1 second. Now you're back.
Yeah.
Or at least
if it were the case, God would have said, look at these fucking silly humans trying to build a tower up to me. Don't they realize they can keep building? They're never going to get to me. I'm everywhere. I'm in some other fucking other dimension. They can never access. So, yeah, just let them keep trying. But no, he had to directly intervene. He had to confound their languages, take this radical step to try to stop this building from taking place. It's just completely antithetical to everything else.
Because once again, small d energy, he basically was saying they're building a tower that's bigger than mine, whatever I can build. I don't even have a tower, so it's got to come down.
Do we have one of those? Do we have a tower? We should have one of those.
One of those. We're going to call it, well, one of my names has been Sauron. Gosh darn it, I need a tower. Anyway, sending so much love out to James Wolfe. Yes, this is, I guess, inspired by, this episode's kind of inspired by him. But I will say, sending love to James on MDD, who has always been great to me, and we're sending love to the entire MDD community. I thought, I always think that Team Skeptic always does good. This is my first time seeing this, the guy that was defending evolution. However, my goodness, Jamie's opening statement with they like James said, it's just a Kent Hovind redux. But yeah, I mean, Jamie, come on and tell us why I guess we're wrong, or hey, why not do a reply video? And if not, that's okay too, because what we really are just trying to say is creationism is silly. We love everybody. We just think creationism is a little bit, I don't want to say the who knows what word I'm using.
From the people against God. Remember that Nimrod was a mighty hunter before the Lord. The way the word before is mentioned there implies that this was in opposition to God. Maybe the people chose
It was just because they were really building the tower. It was in opposition to God. Serve under, not Nimrod. Oh my goodness. That very specifically, isn't that a Marvel? Either superhero or supervillain? Anyway, probably way cooler than Yahweh. A mighty hunter before the Lord.
Serve under Nimrod, not only because he was a mighty hunter, but also because they wanted to be in opposition to the Lord. Verses 5 and 6. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do.
Really pisses
me off.
And
now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do.
Yeah, I never thought about doing that. Having people speak different languages. I never I never thought of that before. Huh. Didn't see that one coming, did you, God?
Tells us that the people became wicked, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which...
Yo, this excuse is always what I get when I bring up Noah or other things. They're always like, they had it coming. They had it coming. They only had the also babies to blame. I don't know. It's a very weird argument, but that's what they use every time.
They imagine to do. Some like to interpret this to mean that the Bible is saying that man can become all-powerful, but that's not what we are seeing here. The key words restrain and imagine tells us this is referring to the people becoming addicted to the sins of their imaginations. The Bible is telling us that they were without morals and doing whatever they pleased to satisfy their lust, despite...
Oh my goodness, they were having sex, they were
doing things,
worshiping other gods. Yes, they were having a good time. And this is terrible.
And you see, this is so God. He could have given humans like the same nature as him, so that we would have our morality. His morality is what it is because that's how he is, and he ordained that to be the morality of the universe. He could have given us the same nature so that we regard things exactly the same way as he does, but he didn't do that.
Also,
he made it so we have a different nature than he does.
Let's also just point out, love the jester, but very specifically that doesn't really say they became wicked. This is his interpretation now of the Bible that he is weaving in with the Bible.
What God told them. This is what we call the reprobate mind. And unfortunately, we see this all...
He is now basically doing defense court for God.
Over society today. It's important for me to clarify that
why does it have to be? Why does it have to be so that God has these arbitrary rules and our nature goes against those? So why do we have to go through life constantly fighting against nature to conform to these rules that God just arbitrarily set up? Why does that have to be? Why does it have to be that way?
Also, what is up, Deacon? I think you're a theist, so we want more theists in here. The adults who do evil against children have the choice to repent. The adults. Okay, but what about the babies that can't do anything? They were just washed away. And, that's the other thing that gets me. The Moses story made me cry. And not for, the same reasons that I think the Abrahamic faith thing. If you just randomly killed firstborn Egyptian sons, and I know, it's not randomly, it's the leader guy fudged up. So we're now going to kill the firstborn son of every Egyptian. But my goodness, every Egyptian, the peasant Egyptians, or whatever job they have, you're now just going to kill everybody else's firstborn son? That's
people who had no say whatsoever in the.
Yep.
And say. The thing is, humans sometimes in warfare, we have to make these terrible decisions. We don't always have unlimited options. God doesn't get that excuse. He has unlimited options. He can do whatever he wants. He's not constrained by any. He doesn't get the excuse that humans get.
You would think they always say he's playing 4D chess. And we say, but it looks dumb. It looks like he's just throwing the pieces off the board. And they're like, no. That's the 4D part. We're like, oh, okay.
It looks like just an angry toddler just smashing pieces because he's frustrated with something.
Is it? That really is what this story is about.
Throwing his cornflakes across the room. Yeah. God acts like a freaking child, like a petulant child who just needs to have his way.
pleased by the condemnation of others. Instead, our hearts should break for the lost. This is why we need to remind ourselves to pray fervently for the Holy Spirit to soften the hearts of our society. Verses 7, 8, and 9.
In the Bible.
Go to, let us go down, and there
on each other with consent.
There confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech.
So here we have example A of being a dick.
So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth. And from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. In these verses, we see the judgment of God on his rebellious people. God saw the imagination of the people's heart.
His rebellious people, as in they were making a really fucking tower. What is up,
evil,
Joel?
Amy? It's an act of war. It's an act of war against God.
Of war. Yeah, he is a selfish God, and he calls himself jealous. Like, sometimes I get people that I mean, it's a trap, but I am a trap, and they're like, what's your name? And I'm like, Jealous. And they're like, your parents named you Jealous? That's a stupid name. And I'm like, I point out passage, and they're like, well, you know, he was in his teenage God stage.
And said this needs to be stopped, so he confused their languages. Imagine yourself in the shoes of someone during this time in history. Imagine being friends with someone your entire life, or working side by side with someone for years, and then in a split second.
And see, he's back off the Bible. He's now just giving his interpretation.
Not understanding a word they are saying.
Imagine you're friends with somebody and then they start singing, I'm turning Japanese. And then they turn Japanese. They start speaking Japanese. I really think they did. You really think so? Yes.
Now you have that stuck in my head.
Yeah.
Mass confusion and forced everyone to restructure their entire way of life. But even in this response, we can
mass
see
confusion is good. It's good for God. Mass confusion. That way, the people they won't even have the ability to think. They'll nothing makes any sense. They'll just worship me because that's all I really want them to do. I don't want them figuring shit out, trying to build shit. I just want them to tell me how great I am.
Does this make God an anarchist?
I mean, yeah, basically.
Also, to the Christians, I'm going to say it. I have to say it once a podcast now. I'm now contracted by Bert Armand. What do you think about there only being one gospel that says that Jesus is the Son, is God? Because they call many people sons of God.
Unequivocal.
Yes. I want to know, why is it that Mark, Luke, and Matthew seem to not mention it? Isn't it kind of weird?
It's not explicitly. They just they kind of beat around it, but John really just puts the hammer on it.
Exactly. He says the I am line, but everyone else just does this shit. They got PowerPoint slides showing you why they think it's true.
Mercy on his creation. Keep in mind that God had just recently flooded the entire earth, and already people were back to their rebellion. But instead of...
So, James, I'm going to give 2 compliments, all right?
I just flooded the earth.
Just recently flooded the entire earth. And already people were back to the rebellion.
Yeah.
Listen, the Bible is the big book of God from story number 2. Because if you just say God created all that shit and then took a rest, it's the only story he basically got right. Basically, It is so much like Hitchhiker's Guide. Hold on one second.
But no, like the Old Testament is all the entire narrative is they're trying to get people to stick with this God. So they write all these stories about times in the past when people rebelled against God and bad shit happened. So they can tell all the kids, oh, look, back in the people did this to God and all these terrible things happened. Because, people might stand around and say, actually, what has this God actually ever done for any of us? Has he ever came? Has he ever done anything for anybody? Do we even know he exists? Oh, well, I mean, yeah, they rebelled against him in the past, and look what he did. He flooded the earth. He punished the Pharaoh in Egypt. He confounded the languages at Babel.
I'm sorry, Pharaoh who?
One of them, any of them. Oh,
one of them. Pick a pharaoh. Any pharaoh.
Sure one of them. Yeah.
Pick from the deck. We'll do a magic trick.
But this is propaganda. It's manipulation. It's like shit that you tell kids like when they're not going to understand something. You give them this silly explanation that they'll just take at face value.
Yes, it's the kind of stuff that you only accept if you are a child and being told by your parents that this is true, basically. What was I gonna say? Oh, I was gonna read the Douglas Adams quote. In the beginning, the universe was created. This has made a lot of people very angry and has been widely regarded as a bad move. I just love that. I think beginning of Hitchhiker's Guide. The two things I'm going to compliment, because we're probably about to be getting to his begatting. There's somewhere in here is a bunch of begatting. The two compliments of the night, ladies and gentlemen. All right. First of all, beard game, not terrible. Okay, if we're just
he's kind of talking about he's okay.
Yes. So this probably doesn't grow. So this is as much as can grow at this level.
Yeah.
And so
he's working with what he's got.
Well, yes, it's at, once again, we're looking for if you too little and it just looks like kind of like scrubble too much, and it looks like you're homeless, though we love and support homeless and think that we should get homes. But nonetheless, this is our scale here. It's tidy. And the other thing is he's created good white space because he has this. So you could probably do even better. He probably could do this, and he could put that over there and just have a bunch of white space. His white space ends up being here. Either way, it's pretty good. As in, he has his highlighted things. That's what you should do. You should not fill your entire. It's still a little bit too texty. You really shouldn't have sentences.
The Bible, though. I mean.
Well, not this.
This is his commentary.
It's just his commentary. So, like, how would I adjust it? Keep in mind the gods are recently flooded. Yeah, you would put things like rebellion or flooded and rebellion, and so like keep in mind that that's a useless word. That's nothing. God. Just recently, you could have just said God recently. You could have actually had just. And I do this to I can't help it. I am so like snooty about PowerPoints because if you can read a sentence on a PowerPoint, you're actually getting people to drift away. They should just be able to glance at it and then go back to you reading. Or go back to speaking. I'm sorry, not reading. That's exactly what you don't want. Nonetheless, it's not terrible. We're not Ken Hovind. If he had done, Ken Hovind would have had this entire screen filled behind the green screen.
15-foot whale dicks on the side, just wherever you can work one in, like graphically.
And you don't need the text to go all the way down. But breathe. Still a little bit of work here, but not bad. So those are my two compliments of the night for him. We're not going to get it from his argumentation. But we're sending love. We're sending love.
Destroying them, God demonstrates his mercy by confusing the languages, and in the end, everyone did as God commanded.
How is that mercy?
Because he could have killed him. Because he can always kill you, Amy. So therefore, anything else that he does,
if that's the response, then holy moly, it's not mercy and it's not justice. It is ego. It's pride, jealousy, stuff that we all try to get over.
I'll give him another chance to worship me. I'll give him a little more time.
And scattered across the world to fill the earth. Verse 10. These are the generations of Shem.
I love Shem. I had him over for dinner once. Oh, here we go. Oh, Jesus. They're Jesus. So we're just going to go to 1.5. Exactly. Now, he has light commentary that we can maybe catch, but like the amount of water that we have to pour in a dry desert when we do this shit in our Bible study is a lot, because the Bible is not high octane unless it's killing people. So here we go.
You see, like all these names of these people that, even if they lived, they'd be completely lost to history, so obscure that you never expect to find them in any record anywhere. Even if they existed, could never prove that they never existed. All of a sudden, we get to one person that would be in history.
Yeah, we can't get
for whatever reason,
name, but
they refuse to name him. What the person who would actually be in a history book? You could actually look him up. No name, but let's see all these names of people who never even existed.
Shem was 100 years old and begat Arphaxad 2 years after the flood.
Fantastic.
In verse 10, we see the phrase, these are the generations of. As I've said in previous chapters,
I like how here's the commentary. The current writer is signing off, and a new writer is taking over now. Later in verse 27. Oh, we're switching over from killing people to exposition. Yes. And then he's like, Abraham.
Phrase tells us that the current writer is signing off and a new writer is taking over now. Later in verse
like they're on late night and they're signing
27,
off.
We will see that our new writer is Terah, the father of Abraham. Verses 11 through 27.
Here
and
we
Shem
go.
lived after he begat Arphaxad 500 years and begat sons and daughters. And Arphaxad lived 5 and 30 years and begat Salah. And Arphaxad lived after he begat Salah 403 years and begat sons and daughters. And Salah lived 30 years. And Salah lived after he begat Eber 403 years and begat sons and daughters. And Eber lived 430 years and begat Peleg. And Eber lived after he begat Peleg 430 years and begat sons and daughters. And Peleg lived 30 years and begat Ru. And Peleg lived after he begat Ru 209 years and begat sons and daughters. And Ru lived 230 years and begat Serug. And Ru lived after he begat Serug.
Once again, for all those people, I hadn't planned to go 1.5 because it's only a 15-minute video. But I was just listening to this, as I'm putting my face on and getting ready. And it's like, holy moly, I forgot how much exposition that the Bible goes in, where literally you could read this and gain no useful information ever. No one says this at their wedding or anniversary or at a funeral. Never, ever,
ever. You know what they do use it for, Amy? Well, all these crazy scientists talk about carbon dating, talk about the Earth being millions and billions years old. We can use these begats here. We can disprove all that.
Yeah, and sometimes they use this as an argumentation of, well, it's so specific because it says 103 and 117.
Yeah, usually
who would make up those numbers? They'd do like 100 and 120.
Well, it's like from numbers, all the census figures, they were always round numbers, always. So you did not want to be the 20,331st guy. You didn't want to be that one guy.
No.
Because they were all round numbers. You would have to go.
Yeah, I'm just going to point that out. Both this and I don't know. if it maybe just had a single sex scene, you know, it'd be a little bit more interesting.
I think God could have told us about germs or all the things he could have told us about that would actually benefit humanity. He wastes this time talking about these people that never fucking existed.
Once again, just exposition.
207 years and begat sons and daughters. And Sarah lived 30 years and begat Nahor. And Sarah lived after he begat Nahor 200 years and begat sons and daughters. And Nahor lived 29 years and begat Terah. And Nahor lived after he begat Terah 119 years and begat sons and daughters.
Oh.
And Terah lived.
I'm sorry, James. It's just so beautiful.
It's
Holy
the word
moly.
of the living God, Amy. This is a message from God, our creator, to us.
The other thought I had when I was listening to this is supposed to be the best book ever. The best book in history.
According to Ultimate,
is better than Shakespeare.
Number one selling book of all time. / balls on your chin. / fuck you.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to take The Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. And my goodness, I'll even take the people that probably don't like me, which is, I saw Sumami talking about Narnia. A lot of the Matt Pals and the other people are so far in that they can see Narnia. As well as J.K. Rowling, who I think's in the closet. I'm the only person that brings that up, I swear. I hope that resonates and someone like Big Picture asks her about that. That doesn't matter. Let's not get politics. Let's get back to... I don't know what we're just naming people. It's all we're doing, James.
Well, here we
it's
get
like
to Abraham.
We are in purgatory.
70 years and begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran begat Lot. In verses 11 to 26, our new writer, Terah, is giving us the genealogy from Shem to Abraham. Then in verse 27, he signs off with the phrase, these are the generations of, and later in chapter 25, we see that our new writer is Ishmael, the son of Abraham. Verses 28, 29, and 30. And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity in Ur of the Chaldees. And Abram and Nahor took them wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife, Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Iscah.
Oh my God, does Milcah give milk? What are we talking about? Holy moly. Like it has been...
milk from anything with nipples, Amy.
Right. That's what Fokker told me. And I think we have an earlier argument that we do with each of our Bible studies. These authors are getting paid by the word, right?
Yeah.
Probably by the letter. That's what I'm thinking. This is... And it must suck not to have copy and paste because it feels so copy and pasted. But, you know.
In terms of actual information being presented, they're speaking a lot but saying so little. There's
have
no
like a stamp.
Actual information here.
All right. So who begat who? Who begat who? Jesus. And that is what they're saying. This is like, and this person had sex with this person and they had a child, and this person had sex with this person and they had a child. This is heart pounding.
John fucked Shirley.
It really is that document. And once again, they're like, it's so boring that it has to be real. No, it doesn't.
But Sarai was barren and had no child. For the next 14 chapters of Genesis, we will be reading the writings of Abram's son Ishmael. He starts in verse 28 by telling us that Abram's brother Haran died and his wife married his brother Nahor. Later in Deuteronomy 25, we see that this is actually one of the laws given to the Jews. So this
Haran died, his wife married his brother. Hey, weren't they like against? They have an apologetic. First, it's been apologetic for everything.
It's an apologetic for.
But once again, the Wincest just coming in. And what else is highlighted? People already have, because if it's a good PowerPoint slide, that's what we should be able to look at.
That's funny because by saying that, he's actually saying that is part of the natural law. So there's there's the natural law, which is these are things that God didn't have to tell people were wrong, that he could just, you should intrinsically know that it's wrong to steal or kill, even if he doesn't tell you, so he can still hold you accountable for it. It's the natural law. It's not the ceremonial law that, like, you would never know that you didn't have to keep the Sabbath unless God told you. So he can't punish you for that unless you know. Once you know, then he can tell you.
No. And I definitely do not celebrate.
But he's saying that part about marrying your brother's widow is like part of the natural law. That's because they don't practice that today.
Let's play a game. The Tower of Babel, or was it Akkadian Babylon, which was the name of Babylon, and the greatest religious structure of the city was Itaminonaki, built by for Marduk. No, Marduk. I'm trying to think of the recent other DC villain. Or no, it was Marvel and in Ant-Man. Anyway, off a tangent. Yeah, these stories all seem to, or probably come from other Mediterranean cultures and cultures throughout, other civilizations.
Like the flood story. Like the flood story got adapted and borrowed.
They just think that they're the ones who created it. And I say, and by they, I mean lay Christians nowadays. No, they're the first and the only flood story. TM, James. Like McDonald's. They were the first and only hamburger. Hey, Rachel made burgers. I should eat a hamburger later. Oh my goodness, this is a good day.
This verse appears to support the idea that the people already had some knowledge of these rules before they were officially written into God's word.
Sleepy Gizmo.
Next, in verse 29, Abram marries Sarai, later known as Abraham and Sarah. Abraham is known as the father of the faith and is the head of the covenant between God and the house of Israel. So here we are.
I also love when we still have modern names. I wish we would still talk about the tribe of Dan. I love the tribe of Dan.
We're seeing the introduction of our next major person of focus in Genesis. Finally, in verse 30, the Bible tells us that Sarah was barren and had no children. This will be an important detail later because we will see God make a promise to Sarah and bless her with a child. I'd also like to note that, like Sarah here, sometimes we are given imperfections so that we can use them to bring glory to God.
Not to learn as a human being, but
no. Remember, Amy, your life is nothing. You're shit. You only exist to glorify God. All your hopes and dreams and aspirations are vain, empty, meaningless. They'll never make you happy. The only thing that matters, Amy, is you just worshiping God. That's it. That's everything.
On your knees. We also might have to. We're multiplying cats again. She'll probably run out in a second.
Anything that you're doing aside from worshiping God is a gross misuse of the time, Amy. Because like you're going out bowling. I mean, why would you spend time crashing balls into pins when you could be using that time to tell God how great.
Glorifying God.
Yeah, glorify God.
50-50. No. Oh, Keegan. But it was good seeing you. My babies. And James's baby. This podcast is sponsored by Kits.
Yes, he did, Mark. But that's not how God. That's not what God intended. He didn't intend for Abraham to have a son with Rebecca's or with his wife's servant. That was something his wife came up with, which was bad. It was naughty because she didn't trust in God that God would make her, being 90 years old, being over 90 years, able to have a baby. She didn't have enough faith in God that. She would still be able to.
I like how that's also young compared to all of these others that are over 100 years old.
Yeah, 90 is just a drop in the bucket. 90 is like the new 16.
More commentary, but
verse 31 and 32.
There we go.
And Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan. And they came unto Haran and dwelt there. And the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. In these verses, we see Terah's brother Haran dies, and his brother Nahor marries his widow. Then Terah leaves the land of Ur to travel into the land of Canaan and takes Abram, Sarai, and Lot with him. This map gives you a visualization of the journey of Terah, Abram, Sarai, and Lot.
Yeah, no, totally. This is definitely what they want.
Yeah, totally.
Genesis 11, verse 31. In verse 31, the Bible says they came unto Haran and dwelt there. The Bible doesn't specifically say what the purpose of this journey is, so this has led to some interesting theories for the motive behind this. I'm not quite sure myself, but here are the two main theories, and you can decide for yourself what makes more sense. The first theory is that...
I like how he's like, I'm going to make some shit up, so let's see.
We don't know. I mean, he's going to give a third reason, though, which really just tells you all you need to know.
Terah inherited his deceased brother's property, so that's why they were embarking on this journey. And the second theory is that Terah was traveling out this way to get his deceased brother's affairs in order, which would be things like his will, the property.
I have a third theory.
Okay, go ahead before he says it.
What if it didn't happen?
Oh, well, no, Amy, come on. That's cheating.
Property and finances he had left over and things like that. And just as a bonus, here's a third theory for this. It could have just been because God told him to do this. And a future chapter will seem to suggest this.
Oh, there you go. Because God told him.
More
he didn't have a purpose, Amy. God just told him to do it just to do it. Because it's like Oliver North saying, when they asked him why did you do something? And he's like, sir, if the President of the United States orders me to go in the corner and stand on my head, that's what I'm going to do. It's like, if God tells me to go somewhere, well, God damn it, I don't need a reason. I'm just going to go. Even if it doesn't have to make sense. It could be completely stupid, but if God's telling me to do it, I'm just going to do it.
Just be sheep.
Now, I'm not sure what the answer is, but it is interesting to note that the word Haran means delayed. Since the meaning of names are important in the Bible, this could be Scripture's way of telling us that them dwelling in the land of Canaan, or Haran, was not intentional. Regardless, Terah, Abram, Sarai, and Lot dwelled in this land until Terah passes away. And that is the end of chapter 11. I hope you enjoyed this Bible study, and keep in mind we will have plenty more to come.
Woo! And there we go. Oh my!
I mean, he's been edging all night. He has plenty. I'll tell you what, Amy. Plenty to come.
That is the kind of enthusiasm that I am looking for. However, we just got done. Tower of Babel, a reading, a poem recital from Studio 215.
Official.
That's right, baby. We don't do any of that unofficial stuff. We serve Heinz ketchup here, and if you're outside of the States, then just know that that's a big brand here. Hunt's is good.
I don't think it really matters.
It probably does. It's probably all made in the same factory and shipped out to different locations.
Heinz, I'll tell you what, Heinz just has this label that just looks very elegant. It just looks like something that should cost a lot. It just looks very elegant.
Listen, that's probably half of the. Yeah. I've worked long enough in Walgreens to stare at the one brand and the other brand and be like, this is the same thing. This just goes on two different factory lines for boxes.
I mean, I've worked at stores that sell medicines and over the counter.
Oh, absolutely.
And people come up, I'm not a pharmacist. I mean, I'm not the person to be coming up asking questions about medicine and dosage and work at a store that sells the shit. I'm not a doctor or a pharmacist, but they persist in asking anyway. Well, only $50 to Mommy. You can worship her, but there's an application fee of $50 before. I guess that you don't get the feedback if you get rejected. She just pockets it and you're fucked. So don't go to her. Don't apply if she's not going to accept you, basically, because otherwise you're just gonna be out your $50. And that would be horrible because then you would have $50 less to be able to shovel into the collection plate Sunday morning at your local church, and that would be horrible. So don't apply unless you're going to get accepted, because the Lord needs your money. The pastor doesn't need your money. I mean, he's just the middleman. It's Jesus that wants your money.
Of course.
So don't stiff your pastor, or you're basically stiffing Jesus. And the Bible is very clear that man shouldn't do that to another, because it's just wrong. Yeah. So don't do it. Make a video yourself shoveling cash into the collection plate, or blank checks, jewelry, your watch, the deed to your house, whatever, and post it online. Do it for Jesus.
For Jesus, of course. But with that, we are going to at least do. I'm gonna, because I have to actually wake up not at the okay-ish time. So we're gonna do about 40 minutes of open mic, and so if you would like to join, we have the StreamYard link right down below. And did I pin it? I think I tried to pin it. Do ha ha da boop. But we already have Mark Reid backstage, which means we are going to head into our open mic. We are Skeptic and Ranting on the Tower of Babel. This is a very skeptic community, and if you are a theist skeptic, or however you label yourself, we want you to come on. We'll give you as much time as you want. We don't we don't try to all talk over each other, but we want to give you time to speak.
I think that's a lot of the pastors there, and unfortunately they seem to be lots of closeted Christian clergy out there.
And I don't know why. Well, I guess I know why. Religion is repressive.
Mr. Batman, just like Ted Haggard.
Ted Haggard is completely heterosexual. It's a great song. You should all check it out. All right.
Gay. Ted Haggard's not gay. He's completely straight.
Completely. But let's get our open mic and have some fun in the sun. We're Skeptic and Ranting on the Tower of Babel. Woo! What is up, Mark? We are having fun. We are Skeptic and Ranting on a very specific tower, apparently. The Tower of Babel. It pissed off God. Here we are. And so I want to know, what are your thoughts about anything that we've been talking about?
We pissed off Jamie so bad the first time. We felt like we had to come back and do it again.
Do it 2 scoops.
Yeah, I mean, if he's going to sort of say, hey, don't moderate me because you said you disagreed with me, I mean, you're really showing your sort of childishness right there. I mean,
exactly.
Let's look at back the other way, standing for truth, and I have disagreed on all kinds of things, and I happily let him moderate me, and he said all kinds of nasty things about me. Trace has moderated me before, and I know that guy's made videos of me. Which were actually quite hilarious because I was like, my face was superimposed on people. What were they singing? They were singing something, but like it was funny. It was funny.
I feel almost honored when that stuff happens, right?
Well, the thing is, the other people in the video were like Aaron Ra and Dan Cardinal and
good company to be in.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Right. I'm like, wow, that's pretty impressive. I'm happy to be in that company.
Erica.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. So I was very impressed and very it was cool. So but the thing is, like, when somebody's moderating, you just have to go, well, look, maybe I think his suspicions are unwarranted. I can't tell anybody who to accept as a moderator, but I do think it is a little bit petty. I don't think that's justified. So that's all I'll say about that. I think that if you'd moderated him before, and he'd said, hey, I think that your moderation was unfair, then I might go, yeah, okay, he's experienced your moderation, doesn't like where it's going. Maybe there is something there. But just sort of saying, hey, they made a video about me. Boo-hoo. Oh, come on, dude. Seriously? Like, you may not like modern day debate. I think their moderation is fair. People have disagreements with whether they should moderate more or less or, all kinds of things. But I don't think anyone's out there saying, hey, they favor this side or the other side. It's pretty even. In my opinion, that is my opinion. All right, so now Jamie.
And I agree.
Is ridiculous Tower of Babel stuff, right? So, the one thing that was brought up, and you did bring up some of my comments that was sort of like, he's inserting his own reasons for God's actions into the text, like, oh, humans were wicked, they were what were they called, degenerate or whatever he said, and
reprobates.
Reprobates, yes. The text says nothing of the sort. All it says is one thing, and that is, if humans work together with the same language and manage to build a tower, they will realize they can do anything. They realize they'll be able to do anything at all. And so God wanted to shut that shit down. Like, we can't have humans thinking that they can do anything. Come on now.
I know, that'd be terrible.
It had nothing about being sinful or anything. So he's just trying to make excuses for God being a real dick, basically, a real dick to humans. As soon as
they still think they can fly to the moon, they'll think crazy things that they can do when they work together. Damn
crazy. Yeah, exactly. Like, who wants humans to be successful, happy, and knowledgeable about the world? Not God. It seems ridiculous, but it's there. The other thing that I want to bring up is that somebody today, I was asking in the chat while I was here, and you know what? It's so good to be on. Let me say that as well. I haven't been on for a while. I've been doing my own thing, and I rarely catch your shows. And I saw it on today, and I'm like, no, I'm going to make this. So you are stuck with me. I'm sorry, you're stuck with me now.
Glad to have you.
The one thing you've got to realize is all of this is like 108 years after the Noah's Ark, right? So you have 8 people coming off the ark, and then in sort of about 100 years, they have enough people to build a tower of the likes of which has never been seen into the heavens. I'm not sure of what the breeding program down at Babylon was happening, but holy crap, that is insane.
Not just the tower, but to build stuff in Egypt, to be building stuff in Egypt,
right?
Just a few generations later, all these cities that we know already existed had people there.
Yeah. It's absolutely ridiculous to think that 8 people led to enough people to build the greatest tower in history that stretched to the heavens. I don't know. They sort of explain it away by, oh, well, God sort of increased birth rates. And it's just, you are tripping if you think that's the case. Seriously, like, the amount of procreation required is ridiculous. So, I think Jamie and the rest of the apologists have a problem there. As well as with the flood, like things like the Akkadian Empire, which is like about 1 million people, which was there like 300 years later and stuff like that. But
all these people with different religious beliefs, though, all 8 people got off the ark. They all worshipped Yahweh, and the first thing they did was set up completely new religions, make up their own gods after they already saw Yahweh killed the entire planet because he was mad at them. And they just said, the first thing we should probably do is to start worshiping other gods. That'll go great.
Well, I mean, personally, and I mean, I'm not a sort of archaeologist or any kind of linguist, but personally, I think it was just people had this story about the world being wiped out. People spoke other language, and they're like, well, how the hell did that happen? And so they made up a story about it,
people sitting around the fire. If 8 people got off the ark, then why do we all speak different languages?
Right. So here's the thing, like, there's probably nuggets of truth in there. Like, there may have been a tower in Babylon kind of thing, like some engineering works that were really impressive and things like that. And if you know the history of Canaan with Babylon, they were not on exactly great terms, right? They weren't exactly getting along kind of thing, especially, a bit later when you come to Nebuchadnezzar coming and rolling through and things like that. They really were pretty, they were kind of a rival in the area. So sort of saying, hey, they built this massive tower and then God smote it and changed all the, it just is another kind of, well, those people are prideful and they want, they felt like they could do anything. So they were struck down by God. It was probably, a sort of, just a tower that fell down or something. But these are how myths are made. These ordinary events get transformed over time into these complex and intricate kind of stories that explain away everything. It's human nature to do that. It's a fish story, is what it is. Yeah, I mean, I don't know anybody that. It's like Noah's flood. Nobody really believes the story of Babel. Like linguists study languages, and they know that it wasn't sort of all these languages that suddenly diverged into like every language on Earth. I mean, come on, really? What year is this? Seriously?
Indeed. Like I said before, no one with integrity in the scholarly community, from Jews or Christians, thinks that any of this is actually real.
Right.
And okay, I agree with everything that Mark said, and we are going to get Eric in. Oh no! I just think that it's just one of those stories that, like you were saying, it's just so silly. I don't understand how people, if you're in it, it must seem, and everyone's telling you that it's the truth, I guess you just buy into it. But it is one of those stories where you're like, and a tower, he knocked over a tower, and okay.
Well, it makes sense from sort of, if you think about it in a sort of tribalistic sense, these stories all make sense. Like, some of the Indian nations, some of the Native American nations and the Thunderbird kind of thing, or, even we have modern examples where where people are like, well, how did that canyon get there? Well, it was Paul Bunyan dragging his axe kind of thing, right? So it kind of makes sense to those people at the time and gives them an explanation. But it doesn't hold up under scrutiny. And that's the problem with them. The entire apologetics movement is there to provide some kind of accommodation for what we currently know to be true about our world. And this is why they're sort of failing, because all they're giving are these really bad excuses. And that's what they look like. They're really bad excuses.
Really bad apologetics. Indeed.
Yeah, that's what apologetics is.
And okay, on that note of agreement.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been too long, and it feels great to be back. And I love you so much, Amy.
Mark, I was going to say, we're actually adding, we actually have an open panel. So if you need to go, you can go. We're going to add in Eric. Eric, what is up? We're doing Skeptic and Ranting, and we're talking about the Tower of Babel. And how are you?
Yeah, doing pretty good. Thanks for having me. So,
and, I forgot the second tagline. You would think after 100 or more times of doing this. Anyway, we are Skeptic and Ranting on the Tower of Babel. And what do you think about anything we've been talking tonight?
So, I was born and raised as a Jehovah's Witness. So, their doctrine with like why the world is the way it is, like why we have sin and all these things, is because Satan challenged God in the beginning to basically say, mankind doesn't need you. Mankind only worships you because they're fearful of you. They don't need you to succeed. And God said, you know what? Fine. I'm going to accept that challenge. And that's kind of what led into what we have today with sin and death and the world being the way it is, despite the omni qualities of a God. So that's kind of like their response to the problem of evil. It's that God doesn't want this to be the case, but God has to make a case to Satan in order to settle this issue so it's never raised again. And so I always found that peculiarly, because if you factor in the Tower of Babel into that whole thing, that's God directly interfering with man succeeding in proving Satan right. God said, oh no, they're actually going to do it. I better step in and change this. So God steps in and like modifies all the languages and like disperses them and just completely sabotages this operation that's about to prove Satan right. And I always thought that was funny, because if you place a bet with Satan and then you have to step in to modify the results of the bet, you automatically lose. And by default, that proves Satan right. So that was always kind of a kind of like a thing that kind of stuck out.
They're
in my
not
head,
ashamed of a little goalpost shifted here and there. They'll do it when they need to.
Yeah, it's kind of like Ursula in Little Mermaid when Ariel's about to kiss Eric, the other Eric, and then Ursula kind of like has her eels flip over the boat to stop that from happening. That's exactly what God did with the Tower of Babel. He flipped over that boat because they were about to succeed, according to the tale. I don't think any of this crap happened, but it's just like it's just one of the easy things to point out, like these easy contradictions to point out in this theology. This theology was developed over centuries by people who didn't know anything better. It's riddled with contradictions, and the only defense that people have against it are these post hoc rationalizations, rationalizing, and then what's the word I'm looking for? A harmonization, making words not mean what they really mean, fudging things around, getting it to like kind of fit together and resemble coherence. And it's I don't know. It's just really funny because it's
just how they present it, as if it makes complete sense. It's totally logical, and yeah.
That's why I like straight epistemology. That's why straight epistemology is there to just pull it apart. You just ask questions. I was doing it in chat with a Christian in chat. I was asking several questions, not getting any satisfying answers.
Was that P-Town?
Not P-Town. No, it was Deacon. Asking questions and either getting a non-answer or a deflection with a different answer, and just like, if you have the truth and you have like reality on your side, you don't need to play these games. If you're asked a question, answer it. Like if you're asked a question, like if you say that, oh, for instance in the chat, every Bible story is basically to show us how forgiving God is. And then I asked a question like, well, how does drowning babies in the flood show us how forgiving God is? Like, you should be, if what you're saying is correct, you should be able to answer that question. Not by deflecting with other questions or conflating or talking about
they were evil babies.
Things. Yeah. Even the baby that was a day old, like surely there was one baby that was at least just a day old during the flood. Like
that
why?
Baby had it coming.
Well,
baby had
their parents were bad, so the babies, they would have grown up to be evil.
Of course.
It was an act of mercy for God to kill them, before they actually got to be evil, and then he would have to send them to hell.
Of course.
Not how genetics works.
But then it's like, but then also raises questions like, okay, let's just grant that, okay, every single human on earth had to die except Noah's family, even the babies. Let's just go ahead and just grant that. Like, there's some logical reason, justified reason why it had to happen. Why drown? God could have Thanos snapped them out of existence. God could have just poofed them. No pain, no nothing. Why the theatrics? Why the pain? Why the suffering? Like, this strikes me as the requirements of a needy God. This God needed theatrics. He needed suffering because he needed to instill fear.
And Hoven's actually given an answer for that before. It goes like he said, well, if God just poofed them all away, there'd be no evidence. God did it with a flood. That way there'd be evidence, and we could look back and we could see the judgment of God being poured out onto this evil world, and that we would know that it happened. Otherwise, it would just be something written in a book, and you'd never know if it really actually happened. But now we have all the evidence.
Yeah, you would have been more impressive. So I proposed this in one of my videos. I proposed that, okay, well, this was regarding the Israelites going to slaughter the Midianites, like that really famous scripture, and I think it was Exodus. Go slaughter the Midianites, kill everything except the virgin girls, which keep for yourself for undefined reasons. Like,
why would they want to do that?
Yeah, there's all kinds of questions around that, but it's like, okay, marauding and raiding and burning down villages and taking virgins was what a lot of different groups were doing back then. So this doesn't place the Israelites in any particularly special group. They were all doing this for their own reasons, including God told me so. What would have been more impressive is if God, with his mighty powers, just teleported the Midianites to a remote part of the, because the context is the Midianites were a direct threat against Israel. They were like neighbors, and the Midianites were a direct threat against Israel, either militarily or culturally or religiously or whatever, but they were a threat. So, okay, Midianites got to go. Why kill them? Why take virgins? God could have just teleported them to North America.
Well,
okay.
The thing is, like, God can do everything, but the amazing thing is, what can he not do? He gave his people a promised land, but he couldn't give it to them unoccupied. There had to be people already there, and well, he's got to do something with them so his people can inherit the land.
But if you think about it, if God teleported this group to North America, removed their ability to reproduce, and some people complain that, they were like sacrificing the children to Molech in the fire. Like, okay, fine. Remove their ability to reproduce, make all the children fireproof, like he did with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and Daniel. And just let them naturally die out. No violence, no taking of virgins, nothing. Just, hey, everything they have was over there. They can just die out and everything.
Religion loves virgins. Just going to point that out.
The Bible says this. And then later in history, we find remnants of this lost tribe in North America on the opposite side of the world from where the Bible was written. Now, that would be impressive evidence. Like, that would be impressive evidence of the story and all those things. But instead, God just simply says, no, just go over there and slay everyone with the sword and take the virgins. Like, it's just, it's such a human solution to a problem that God has literally infinite solutions for. God picks the human solution that's indecipherable from just, man just did this. And it's the same thing with the Tower of Babel, as Mark was mentioning earlier. The Tower of Babel was just a response to, well, how do we have all these languages only 100 years after the flood supposedly occurred? Like, it's just these stories are just organically grown over time. We see it with the church, with the way the New Testament was developed, and which stories were chosen and how they were modified, and all the versions. Just, we have a theology. Hey, we have a question. Okay, we'll patch the question with this Band-Aid answer. And like, we have another question. Okay, patch that. It just over time, and then you get this, what we have today. And it's just such a mess. And it's really, I'll stop ranting here in a second, but it's really intriguing how, I was one of them. It's really intriguing how people latch onto these things and they just don't want to let go.
Different answers. They don't, these special pleading post hoc, they don't match up. Like, they can't both work at the same time, but you wouldn't know that they're using two different answers unless you're looking at two different theological topics at the same time. Because they have one answer for one thing and another answer for another. They conflict, but you won't find that easily.
And that's where post hoc rationalization comes in, harmonization. The witnesses, and I know some other groups also have this too. They have this idea of dual fulfillment. Like, prophecies in the Bible had an immediate fulfillment and then a future fulfillment. And the immediate fulfillment was usually literal, and the future fulfillment is based off of a figurative interpretation of the text. So now you're entering into this realm of any word can mean anything. And even if a prophecy was supposedly fulfilled in the past, it can now also be used to justify or to explain something now. And once you cross that line, now the Bible can say anything you want it to say. All you got to do is just be flexible enough with the terminology, flexible enough with the numerology. It's bonkers. Like, it's unfalsifiable. It's useless it is useless to demonstrate anything as true, because you can't demonstrate any of it as false. Yeah, it's really fascinating, and it's probably why I'm so kind of passionate about it now. It's because I was a witness from birth to the age of 27, and I'm 41 now. And I look back and I go, what kept me in it for so long? What duped my parents into this? And that's why I kind of like studying this, because that's
an idiot.
What's that?
You talk like an idiot.
I wouldn't say look like an idiot. Thought like an idiot. Sorry, let me get I'm getting my earbud in so I can hear you. Talked.
Spoke.
Yeah.
Did you spoke? Because that's something that who was it? God, I'm blanking on his name. Seth. What's his last name? Seth
Andrews.
Yeah, Christianity made me talk like an idiot. Yeah. I need to read that book. Yeah. I like how he tactfully titled that book, because it didn't say Christianity made me an idiot,
right,
or made me sound like an idiot. It was, I talked like an idiot.
I will actually say that I think sometimes when you are more intelligent, the mental gymnastics that you're able to accomplish are higher. You're able to go to greater lengths to do this apologetic shenanigans,
more elaborate justifications and rationalizations. And it's like, if you're familiar with Oz, like over at the Flavor, used to be the Atheist Roundtable, but he said, like, when he became an atheist and looked back, he's like, man, I said, I can't believe some of the things I used to believe. I can't it's hard to believe how I bought into this stuff for all these years. And now once you're out of it, once you take the God glasses off, and it's like none of it just makes any sense, but you just accepted it so willfully. You just really never questioned it.
Yeah.
The right way.
Yeah.
And I will say, creationists, as well as all the lovely skeptics out there, this is your last 15 minutes to join before we go into our outros. But we have been talking the Tower of Babel. It is one of the better, I don't know, is it a miracle if it's bad?
Presumably. I mean, presumably it wasn't bad that the tower got destroyed. Presumably
that's true. Thing, right? Oh my goodness. I listened to them talk about it, and they like romanticize everything that sounds horrible to me. They somehow find a way to like, and then he suffered, and oh my God, there was blood falling out of his wounds, and I'm like, well, get a medic. I don't know what's going on here, but okay.
Yeah, and God drowned the world because they were evil, and so that was just great. That was the best thing ever, and you're sitting there with a horrified.
It was beautiful, Amy. It was beautiful, righteous justice, and God destroying his enemies for his own glory.
Yep.
Yeah, I have a problem with this sentiment. But I mean, Jamie's sort of an odd duck because as everybody's pointed out, and actually I was in an after show with Eric today, which was interesting. On the debate that he did today. So Jamie's a bit of an odd one because he just wholesale, he's one of those sort of Hoven minions that really just reflects everything that AIG says, Answers in Genesis. Like he is just, everything comes from Answers in Genesis. So
even like parents get Hoven's jokes, which is like if you're even stealing his jokes, like in your presentation.
Yeah. Oh,
he called Hoven a good guy, right? Something along those lines. Like Hoven's a good guy. Yeah.
I mean, obviously 90% of his stuff is copied directly from him. So
yeah. And I mean, I think he really is trying to, like, I think he sees himself as taking over Hoven's ministry. I think there's a lot of jostling for Hoven's position, which is kind of really weird and creepy kind of thing to me. Anyway.
Yeah. He definitely lacks the charisma to take over Hoven's ministry, though. Like Hoven is a scumbag, but he's a charmer. Like, got to admit, he
has that natural.
He can converse. He can make you laugh. He's got some good jokes in his stuff. Yeah. Jamie's a wet blanket compared to Hoven.
No, like Hoven's an asshole, but and you see the way he treats people and like behind closed doors, but you just met him, like you probably think he was. I mean. You disagree with him, but you think he's a good guy. He's, honorable, honest, which he's none of the above, but he presents that way. He's he's actually a physicist. He does gravity experiments on all of his wives. Yeah. It's amazing. He's being peer reviewed by a jury of his peers. Like a used car salesman. Like the car looks like it has way more than 20,000 miles on it, but you want to believe hey, I mean. He says it only got 20,000 miles.
We can fit so much bullshit in this thing. Slaps the hood.
Was when he quoted Donnie Badinsky as an expert on ERVs, I laughed my ass off. That was so funny. Like that is so funny. That's their new shtick. They're going all in on ERVs. Well, it's either contingency if you're the pre-sup, or ERVs if genetics is given up on you as an argument. Yeah. I debated this guy, Eric, about like 7 months ago, and in that debate, he said he's like, well, we could get into ERVs, but I spent 3 days. I spent looking into it, and I can tell you, there's nothing there. There's no evidence for evolution there, really. 3 days. Yourself.
This is Hoven saying this, right?
No, this is Jamie.
Jamie. Okay, yeah, Jamie. Jamie said that tonight too.
He said he spent 3 days going through ERVs, and he debunked it all.
Hoven says something very similar maybe about a year ago, like almost verbatim. Like, I've looked into ERVs, and there's nothing there. It doesn't prove anything. And he didn't elaborate further.
When I raised it with Hoven, his answer was talk to Donnie. Like, he didn't want it. It was Donnie wrote a book, talk to Donnie about it. And I've sort of challenged Donnie on it before. Because Donnie uses a lot of papers. He uses one called Switching Sides, How ERVs Work co-opted by our genome to work for us instead of against us, right?
Yeah.
And he ignores all of the conclusions of the paper and just goes, look, they've got functionality. And it's like, yeah, but the paper says, even in the name, it says they were co-opted. So, you know, there's a bit of...
A couple of them have functionality.
Yeah.
Not all of them do. And they just say, oh, well, they'll discover... Then maybe they'll discover functionality later. So we just think they don't have function. Well, no, a lot of them don't really have any function.
That all feels like a distraction. Like when it comes to ERVs, like just you got to cut to the heart of it. You have to ask the Christian, how do you explain the 200 plus, 208, 206 insertions that match up exactly with chimpanzees and humans? Like how do you explain that? Like these are this is virus DNA. We can pull this virus out of our genome and bring these viruses back in a lab. Like it's virus DNA.
Humans are so similar to chimpanzees. Of course, we would have the same viruses. They have function.
That's the only two answers. That's the only answer that a creationist can provide is that, well, God just made it that way. And it's like, well, why aren't we don't see these in the other apes, like the other really closely related animals to us? Why do we see a clear pattern as we go back in the history of life? How we see that we have these duplicate virus insertions in the same exact locations, and we get fewer and fewer as we go back. Like, there is really only two answers. One is that we share common ancestors, that these groups divide and start to diversify, and these scars in our DNA, as stated clearly states, like the way they coin it, we share common ancestors, or just God just made it this way. For some reason, God made virus DNA and put it in our... it's
like almost deceptive. Why would he do it in a way that would make it look like and logically be deducible that, hey, they probably had a common ancestor with a chimpanzee because all these things are in the same place. What are the odds of that happening?
Well, and
that's to further that point, we would have no choice but to come to that conclusion, right? Because the way that they're set up with sort of the ENV gag poll systems, we would have to conclude that they were viruses. We would have to, because that's the only time we see that particular structure in nature. So why is God making it like that just to sort of trick us? Presumably he could have made it any way he wanted. But why this way?
Well, that's like when they talk about like the nested. Why does everything have to be in a nested hierarchy? And Kenobi, well, that way the cow can eat the grass and I can drink the milk and we can all eat each other. It's like God could have done it so that each animal had a clearly distinct lineage. They were clearly not related, and we could still eat the other animals. God could do anything he wants. He could do that. He chose not to. He chose to do everything in these nested hierarchies that make it look like everything came from a common ancestor.
Yeah. And that really comes down to, like, it all goes back to just the core concept of falsifiability, which is one of the questions that I love asking creationists in debates. And that's not the first time I've done it. It makes me feel like I'm like I just have to ask the same question over and over again in these debates, but I've never get a good answer. How do you falsify the creationist claim? We have lots of falsification criteria for evolution, and for literally every other proposition, every other claim that science makes, we have a falsification criterion for it, at least one. There isn't a single claim made by science that doesn't have falsification criteria attached to it, because if there isn't, then it can't be a scientific claim. So creationists, what's a single falsification criterion for creationism? What is one thing that we could potentially discover that will show it to be false?
What's a single one for the Tower of Babel?
There you go. Yeah.
Right, we've got falsification principles for all kinds of things that we have in history, right? If we find that this person was in this area, we know that they didn't fight this war that they were claiming to have fought, right? So all it takes is one sort of out of place thing, and we can say, hey, that what they said. Like, for instance, I love to use Richard III, right? Are you aware of Richard III?
Was that the Lionheart from the Second Crusade?
Well, Shakespeare wrote a play about him, right?
Oh,
and he was supposedly the guy that killed the twins in the tower. He was the twins' regent, basically. And because of Shakespeare's play and a lot of other stories that had come, it was sort of said that he was a hunchback and an evil man and taxed the poor and all this kind of horrible stuff. However, what we did is we actually found paintings of him from before the Tudor era that presumably they thought had been destroyed. And he wasn't a hunchback. He wasn't evil. Like all of the stuff that it talked about him doing, he was just an average king kind of thing. So the question became, well, why is the history saying these things about him? As it turned out, the person that came to London and sort of arrested him for killing the twins who were the real heirs to the throne and then took over the throne was Henry Tudor, right? So it was the person that stood to gain the most who put these stories about Richard III being an evil king. But this is how we falsified that information. We get other history and go, wait a second, that sort of falsifies what we previously thought.
Yeah.
But the question is, what would falsify the Tower of Babel? Because even finding the city that I believe Pat was talking about, they'd just say, no, it was some other city. There's nothing.
I've heard before, not directly on that topic, but I've heard that you could falsify Christianity, you could falsify the resurrection. I'm like, no, you can't falsify the resurrection.
Yeah.
Without a time machine to go, you can't. We don't have great evidence that it happened, but can you prove that it didn't happen? No, you can't prove that objectively. You can say we have no reason to think it's true. We can't prove it didn't happen. Which they know that they would never specify something that you could test because it would fail the test. It always does.
Because any potential thing that can be revealed in our research can be explained away to continue to support the resurrection narrative.
Because miracles and God can explain literally anything.
It's post hoc rationalizations left and right when it comes to this kind of stuff. Like we need something concrete. Like creationists need to provide something concrete to say that if this is the case, then creationism is false. And if they can do that, if they can at least take that step, then the idea of creationism can at least be taken a little bit more seriously. Because at this point, with no falsification, it can't be.
At the zenith hour, I'm fairly sure this person is a creationist. This is what always happens, James.
I'll be nice.
The last moment. Deacon Jungle Cat polls. We are skeptic and ranting on the Tower of Babel. We are all here ready to become Christians. I hope you're doing well. And what are your thoughts about anything we've been talking about tonight?
Oh, wow. First off, I just want to say good evening to everyone. This is the first time that I have ever gotten on YouTube like this to talk or anything like this. So this is kind of like a real big deal for me. I'm kind of nervous. I'm not a debater or anything. I'm just kind of a person who sits in the background and just prays for people and just tries to send out positive vibes from my end. Because I've been in the position where I was not into the faith, and I saw there were some comments earlier. I didn't want to turn into a back and forth with anyone because it seems so hypocritical for people who profess to be followers of Christ to engage in hurtful behavior back and forth. So I try to be very careful when I speak to people, and I'm often very socially awkward because it's very hard to often reflect entirely what I wish to convey. It's hard to sometimes just adequately express what goes on in your head in a short amount of space where you can only type so many characters. I'm not a person who will come at this from a purely intellectual aspect, even though I am very much into science. I appreciate science. I know who most of you all are because I have either followed you all for years or seeing encounters with you. It is a pleasure and a blessing to be here with you. Regardless if whether we agree or not, I still love you. You're all human beings. You're all unique. You're all artists of some kind. You're all beautiful. Every single person on this planet, I feel that way. So I don't think no one should be minimized or made to be felt invalid. And I'm sorry that I'm just rambling because I'm really nervous, and there's no magical one-liner that you can just spit out, or some just beautifully emotional story that will just give someone, a breakdown of their life, will just shock up their core, and they're just like, oh, I can't believe I'm truly converted. Because I've been there, I've been on the side of the fence where I was the one attacking the church, and regardless of how I sound, and I know a lot about the world and religions and spirituality, and I've like most people, dibbled and dabbled and developed whatever my own, or what we consider our own, a little bit of this, a cherry picking of this. So I know about Sufism and Islam and Reiki and light work and all that stuff, and all the things that go on with the New Age and the conspiracy theories and the aliens in Peru or whatever. When you start talking about stuff, the family members think you're crazy. I know about all that stuff, and I know how difficult these subjects are to breach with people. So because I have you here, this is my first time, and I'm nervous and I don't know what to say. Ultimately, I just want to convey my love to you, my prayers to you, and my wishings of God blessings to you, because that was the only thing that set me free and sanctified me free from feeling so isolated, or that this world is just strictly mechanical and chemical and all those the different theories. I've been there. All those questions that y'all have for God, those back and forths. I've been angry with God. I don't agree with every single thing that go on in the Bible. Where everyone maybe feels like they may have a little better way about how God should handle stuff, or I can't say I haven't been in a place where I haven't been questioning God or angry at God, and I think that is okay. That the act of that in itself, addressing those questions directly to God, it is what helped to facilitate the space where I was better open and receptive to the messages between me and God and spirit, and not all the other things that can get intermingled. And if I go there, we can go into the guardian angels or spirit guides, or what all this people say. Yes, sorry, I'm
sorry,
so
it's okay.
sorry. Yes.
Let me just cut in.
Thank you so much.
Let me commend you coming in the lion's den and showing the courage, doing this for the first time, and all those things. I totally understand the nervousness there. Like, it's good you're doing that, and I think it's great.
We won't bite you.
Yeah, we won't bite you.
Yeah, unless you're into that, exactly.
Yeah. So I really commend you for doing that. So you said that you used to not be a believer and now you are a believer. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I used to be a believer. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So let me just elaborate on it. Okay. So I used to be a believer and I'm no longer a believer. So you and I both went through a transition. We both were on opposite sides of the fence, and then we crossed over onto opposite sides of the fence. So I can explain why I stopped being a believer. Can I ask you what was probably the biggest thing that made you switch from being a non-believer to a believer? And you just mentioned talking directly to God. Was that it, or was there something else that like made you take that jump?
The it was a whole process of
Can you give it to me in 30 seconds? Like give it to me in 30 seconds or less. Yeah.
Okay. It was like it was a process of God kind of unveiling himself to me, and having to come down to meet me where I'm at when I had been immersed myself completely in world religions and philosophies and all kinds of
what did he reveal?
Propaganda and self-help.
Yeah.
Say what?
So Mark just was about to broach my next question.
Reveal?
Anyone? Or James, sorry. Like you said that God came down, unveiled himself, and revealed himself to you. How did he do that?
Oh, well, I mean, it's metaphorical and physical, because it's like,
let's talk about the physical.
It's not like that.
Let's talk about the physical, because we can examine the physical. So can you describe to me how in a physical sense God did this?
I can't show you a picture of an angel or something, or it's not like God has walked through the wall and had a cup of tea with me or anything. It's not. Yeah. I can't provide anything physical like that. But there are endless encounters of that things that people could say, oh, well, they could go into schizophrenic or whatever. But God knows a way just to shorten this up and not even go into any little stories I have. God knows ways to get with people and touch
Deacon,
everyone personal.
Deacon, I'm asking you for your experience and your.
Oh gosh,
I'll be. So hold on, Deacon. Hold on. Let me finish my question, okay? I'm asking you for your experience, and I'm going to be a little strict about this. I don't want you to say, "Oh, I'm going to go to the broader experience of humankind." I want to know what convinced you. Tell me what physical revelation of God convinced you.
See, I get that, and that's when you start exposing more of yourself and make yourself vulnerable. It just gives room for people more to pick it apart, especially when I'm not so eloquent of speech. So
I'll even be straightforward with you on that. I am asking you these questions to quote unquote pick you apart. I'm not here to embarrass you. I'm not here I'll be straightforward with you. I'm here to ask you questions, and I'm here to generate, expose, and amplify cognitive dissonance in your mind. Because we're all humans. We all have flawed thinking. We all hold contradictory positions. Okay, and I think it's important that if we do hold contradictory positions, they should be exposed and confronted. So if there is a series of questions that I can ask you that can expose those things, it should ultimately help you confront them and resolve them. So that my questions are designed to do that. I'll out here, no hiding. I'm here to do that to you. Are you willing to take that challenge? Are you willing to look at yourself and ask yourself, and have me ask you a few questions and maybe see if we can find something in there that we can maybe examine? Is that something you'd be fine with doing? And not in a humiliating way.
Yes, because I'm kind of used to being bloodletted out, dealing with family and people in New York. So,
right. I understand.
I guess
but
I'm used
we're not. I'm not here to do this out of malice. I'm out here to do this because it's an interesting conversation. I find this fun. Like this is interesting to do. But like, let me ask you this. If you had a contradiction somewhere in your belief system, would you want to know about it?
Well, yes, I actually did, and it was the investigation of that led me to Christ, really.
Okay, so let's explore that then. Let's explore that. So I like your motivation there. I like you saying that, hey, if you have a contradiction, Amy, stop me if I'm going way too long, and I know you want to end the stream soon. So just feel free to just cut me off. But so okay, you said you want to explore, you want to expose these contradictions if they're there, and you said that it was an important part in you discovering Christ. So let's explore that. Okay, so going back to the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got a thumbs up from Amy. Okay, yeah, just mute me and kick me out.
I'm gonna say the same thing. Eventually, James and I will have to go to bed, but we give the same warning. We have to close up in about 5 minutes. If PS comes on, then we'll have to do it for 5 hours, 5 days, whatever we can. Oh, and there's Dr. J. But okay, Dr. J, I'll let you in a second. But
right.
Eric,
Let me
feel free to do
Okay.
it. And
I love you so much.
I love you.
I have followed you for a while, and I came across you with going back and forth with Kent Hovind, and even then I still was like, oh my God, I love Amy. So this is really a big thing for me to kind of actually speak to you. So
I am honored to have you come on. For you said this is your first internet show or joining the conversation, so I'm glad to have you here.
I've followed these things for decades. For like I've known people like things 20 years. Like I'm old. I'm the same age as Eric. So it's like this is
not that
like,
old. Don't tell me that.
No, I mean I'm saying in the realm of things as far as going from plain and born ordinary life to like my life is like a sci-fi fantasy movie, but that's a
so time's limited.
So we have to do somewhere between the 5 hours and the 5 days. We may actually have a few more minutes actually, but what I want to do so Dr. J, I'm going to give you an intro outro when we go to outros. But Eric, I want to give it over just to let you answer a few of your questions. Sure. Tell me when you're done. And then I think I'm going to have Dr. J start our outros.
All right.
And yes, sending love to everybody in chat, everyone out there. Right over to you.
All right. I'll try my best to keep it 5 minutes or less. I might get carried away, but we'll see. So you said that you do care that if there are contradictions in your beliefs, you want to expose them and confront them. And I commend you for that. And then you said that that's part of the reason why Jesus revealed himself to you. Earlier you said that God, which I'm assuming is also Jesus, physically revealed himself to you. So can you just at least 30 seconds or less just tell us what that was, what that experience was, what you saw? You don't have to justify it to me. I'm just asking you what you experienced.
Right. Okay. Well, given that this is October, it's getting closer to Halloween. It kind of is, but it's like a horror movie. It was like a horror movie for a while. Like so some of the things that happened in the movies, like those people did their homework. And I came out of the occult and secret society that I don't really want to talk about. But I did practice magic for a decade. But before that, I was an admit, pretty much atheist until I was kind of lightly exposed to, I guess, new age practices. I guess it was the beginning new agey type stuff. And people who do practice new age, like Kundalini yoga, auto writing, channeling, that stuff, the people who really do that, they know that stuff. Or people who practice magic, they know that. So usually I have a better time associating these things with those kind of people than like people who I've met in church, because they don't even experience supernatural as much as people who are open to it, like especially New Age, because New Age is.
Hey, Deacon, I'm sorry, we got really limited time here. Can you tell me about your experience?
Okay, sorry. Okay, basically it was a haunting. I believe I was in like a horror movie. Or a horror movie where I was basically getting broken down to the point where I was getting attacked to the point where it was not just in my head. It was visual, it was audio. Things were moving on their own. Other people were experiencing things. I have some things that were on video on my laptop that I have stored for decades. Yeah, I have not saved those things to like try to come out as some kind of like, I'm not no content creator. I'm not no limelight person. I'm not no clout chaser. Those things were very special to me, and they were over a time period that are reminders of things that God have helped bring me out of. And I'm not the only one who could give testimony of that. God can bring me through. But if y'all want the horror stories, the ghost stories, I can give it to you.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't care about other people's stories right now. I only care about yours. So, all right. So you gave me a little bit.
Okay,
Right
well,
so,
I mean, that's what I'm saying. It was me calling on Jesus. These things were attacking me. To make the story short, not to go into it.
Okay.
The entities were attacking, the scratches, the things moving, and by people praying out to me was opening my mind up more and more.
Right.
And the closer and closer, I was like, okay, well, maybe there is something to this Jesus thing if these entities are specifically attacking this person. And I was the kind of person who was saying like that Jesus Christ was a myth created by white men, you know, based off Mithra and Dionysus and you know, those pagan sun god deities. I wasn't, you know, like just some person who's gonna be led like to church. I was anti-church.
Right.
I'm still really not like that into religion
so
like
Deacon,
that. I go
Deacon,
now.
Deacon, I'm sorry. I would love to hear more of your story, but we have very limited time. So I'm just let's just try to question, answer. Yeah. I'm not trying to be rude. So, okay. So you had experiences, you had disturbing, spooky October Halloweenish experiences where you were contending with what would you call them? Demons, spirits, bugaboos? Like what would you call them? Like just one word. One word, what would you call them?
You can call. I don't like to give so much power. But you entities. I would say entities, and not all of them have been necessarily malevolent. They are angels and stuff around us also.
Right. So. I'm gonna ask a few questions. So you said you were into the occult. You were divining, practicing magic beforehand. You mentioned you were a non-believer, but you said you were in the cult and practicing magic beforehand. Were you a non-believer before you did that, or was that your non-believer phase?
Yeah, no, I was a non-believer before.
Okay, and then you got into the occult and started doing this kind of stuff, and then you started seeing demons and these spirits or whatever you want to call them, like these entities that were attacking you. Okay, was there? Feel free to not answer. Feel free to not answer.
Well, I mean, when you say it like that, it sounds so like crazy. Like, oh wow, that's a crazy person.
Is that maybe an indication?
No, absolutely not. When you say it like that, because I know I went through these experiences, and there are.
So
there are yes.
Keegan, why is saying it matter of factly make you look crazy?
I think it's just used to when controversial topics come up. Sometimes, a lot of times, often people will shut down. It's very rare to come across individuals like y'all who are open to dialogue back and forth. Usually, it's a lot of one-sided mindedness people in our lives.
Well, just keep in mind that if I say things matter of factly, because I'm doing it for succinctness, for brevity, I'm not doing it to be dismissive. But that might be something you want to we don't have to contend about it now, but ask yourself later on, why is it when my story is boiled down to just its core components, why does it look silly? Like, why does your story require all this embellishment around it in order to make it look better? Don't answer that now.
No.
Mark had a question.
It doesn't always, but it's just, it seems like that is the quickest defense mechanism. I find a lot of people like to stick their head in the sand and like to try to rationalize things away instead of just kind of being open.
I absolutely agree that excessive. I'm sorry, Mark. I'll give you here in a second. I absolutely agree that excessive verbiage built up around the story is a defense mechanism. I absolutely agree with that. I think a person who can give a succinct, clear answer. I'm not saying this is the case by you, but I think this is generally the case with people. A person who can just give a clear, succinct answer is more secure in their belief than one who has to embellish it with a bunch of different words. That's just my opinion. Hey, Mark, go ahead and do your thing.
Well, my question is, and you sort of said it sounds sort of crazy to you. That's just sort of instinctive reaction, and I want to put it to you: is that because if somebody said that they were a Hindu, and they sort of had the same experience, but it was Brahma, a Hindu god of cows or something that saved them, could that be the reason why? Is it because you'd be sort of skeptical of their claim or sort of disbelieving of their claim?
No, I wouldn't. I would be because of the experiences I've had. I would be very open to hearing from that. because I there's no way I could dismiss anyone else's experience given the numerous ones I have. So I would like to do like y'all and dissect them and question them and
cool, yeah, absolutely,
and test them with the scientific method if we can, you know, because I'm like y'all, I like to see stuff, tangible stuff in my hands, and I like to see it.
It's just if you're having these experiences, you're attributing it to Jesus, and the Hindu is having them, and they're attributing theirs to Krishna. How do we know which one is the correct one? Or could they both be wrong? They can't both be true, because if Jesus is God, then Krishna is not God. If Krishna is God, Jesus is not God. They can't both be true, but they can both be wrong.
That's exactly where I was trying to take the conversation there, James. So we have limited time, Deacon. So I'll just kind of cut ahead a little bit. It might be counterproductive, but we'll see. But so you were mentioning,
I put them to the test, Deacon. I put them to the test because I know about Hinduism and Brahma and everything. It's that when I test, we're told to test the spirits. That's even in Scripture, 1 John 4. Test the spirits to see whether they are from God, to see if they tell the truth or not. So I would ask them I would be open to hearing from their experience and then asking them to go to that spirit. If they're saying they're interacting with that spirit, go to the spirit and ask them to question and test the spirit, because I test mine. I test to make sure it's God who I'm talking to and not a demon still lying to me, because I've been delivered from that and been you knowing to interact with the spirit. You learn them and you understand them and know their ways, and it's a relationship. It's not just we're just going off rituals. Right. It's you're getting to know God. God, if you're the creator of this universe, and I'm your child, then you will find a way to interact with me and communicate with me in ways that are real and visible to me and realistic that I can understand. And then if there's a God out there who loves you, it does that. He answers, and he answers every single time.
What's the test that you put these entities through? What is the test?
And also 5 more minutes-ish, or even less, probably. This game's gonna kill me.
To work off of Mark's question there, and also what James said earlier. So we have, from what I can tell, we have at least three options on the board here. Okay, first option is you're correct in that Jesus called to you, directed you away from these spirits, and that's the true solution. The second one is what James said, which could have been some other God that is not Jesus, but it was a supernatural being. The third option I'm putting on the board here is that these experiences were just a product of your own mind, whether due to mental distress, maybe drugs, maybe just a chemical imbalance that you had one day in your brain. It happens to everybody. So we have three options on the table here. And Mark was asking, what's the mechanism by which you are determining which one of these is true? So there's three options on the board right now. One of them is true. They might all be false, but let's just say one of them is true, just for sake of argument. What are you going to do to determine which one is true? Like, what's your mechanism? What's your process for that? Okay,
so we all know the scientific method is there are testings that are observable and repeatable. So through observation, it's not just one experience, it's a collaborative experience where I have seen things that are not explained away just in the mind, unless I'm telekinetic, because I have seen objects move.
If I ask you right now to repeat this experience, you said it should be repetitive and observable and all this stuff, like scientific method. If I asked you right now to repeat this experience, could you do it? And if yes, how would you do it?
No, I could not. No, I would not. The test would not be to back what I was doing then to go use some kind of divination object, some kind of Ouija board, or practices what I was doing, opening the gateway to entities.
What instigated?
That was what I was doing then at the time.
What initiated these experiences before? What was the step one?
It's
before
New
the
Age stuff.
Occurred?
It's New Age. It's built into everything we do. It's like we to do Kundalini yoga and
like Deacon.
working.
Deacon, if I wanted to drive my car somewhere, step 1 is enter my car. Step 2 is insert the key in the car. Step 3 is turn the key. Like I have a process that I use to drive my car somewhere. Okay. You said that you had a repeatable experience. So did you notice any patterns in this happened first, this happened second, then boom experience? Like, can you give me anything to look at and examine?
I mean, because we're trying to make it short, we're saying we have a short amount of time, but then you're asking for things. I can give specific things, but they will go over time. So I'm trying to make things as short as I can without taking too much time. The repeatable experiences are the rituals that were done to continue those things that had me doing those things for all those decades, because people who do those practices know that they work. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep doing them.
All right.
So there are actions that happen because of the rituals.
I'm just asking for step 1
my
of this
ritual now is prayer.
Go ahead, Amy. What's up?
You want a specific example? I can give you.
Oh no. So Deacon, hold on 1 second. You can give a specific example, and then I know Eric's gonna have one question, or
I'll have one question left. Yeah.
So I'm gonna say make that it's not special pleading, but a very special question, because it's the last question before we go to outros. And I feel bad, Dr. J. We went long enough where I probably should have let you in a while ago. But anyway, Deacon, you were about to say something. Eric, outros with Dr. J starting us off.
Sure. So Deacon, what's step 1 of this ritual?
Well, okay, so if you for example, when now all I need to do is prayer, and I ask God a question or whatever, and the answer is gonna be, it's most time it's immediate. It's even if it's an answer whether I like it or not. It could be through me, it could be through the environment, it could be through somebody else. It could be yes, it could be no, it could be a very long answer, it could be a short answer. Something specific I can give you is the instance that I was actually delivered from the spirit, the demons. At that time it had got so bad that they were cursing in my head, they were scratching me, they were moving things around. So I ran to my family's church, and I sat in the front row, and I actually listened to who Jesus was and the story of what happened. And I looked at myself and I examined myself at the time to take the communion. And I was like, well, yeah, I have been, this selfish person, that's been living, for wherever I want to live for, doing whatever I want to do, treating people any kind of way. If Jesus Christ, if you really are real, you really will come into my heart, and make me a better person.
Okay.
And
I got your idea. I'm going to cut you off because I don't want to keep Amy up. So yeah. So I appreciate the response there. So here's my question, and please let's do just a 10-second or less answer, and then I'm going to have a couple recommendations for you. So to cut to the end, can you give me anything to indicate that this was not just the product of your mind?
See, right.
Can you give me anything to indicate that? It's a yes or no question. If you say no, I can't give you anything, that's fine. Then we'll just stop the conversation there. Can you give me anything that tells me that this wasn't just a product of your mind?
No. I mean,
okay.
No.
All right, fair. That's fair answer, and that's totally fine. What I recommend doing, and I'll follow up with this, and then I'll be done. What I recommend doing, Deacon, have you ever heard of the concept of psychological priming?
Yes. No, I know you're gonna say all that. I know that. But the thing is that the psychological priming also works in reverse. Is what I'm here to warn about, because I was under that one.
So Deacon, Deacon, let me finish up my point here. I let you talk. Let me finish on my point here. Okay.
I'm sorry.
So It's okay. I understand you're passionate about this subject. I totally understand, and people like to tell their stories. So I don't blame you. So psychological priming is an interesting phenomenon because I do this with my wife all the time because I'm a cruel son of a bitch. But I will tell her the spider in the room, or that I saw a spider on her earlier. And I will notice for a little while afterwards, she'll be looking for it. She will be scratching at potential itches or where she thinks that a spider might be crawling. It's very easy to kind of plant an idea in somebody's brain and just let that brain take it and run off with it. You can do it with spiders. You can do it with, ghosts in the dark. You can do it with conspiracies and spies and people are watching you. You can do it with, all kinds of other crazy conspiracies.
Have you ever seen her move her mind?
Hold on. We have an amazing ability to fool ourselves and fill in the blanks and prime ourselves to experience these things when we experience other stimuli. One stimuli could potentially lead to another. You might want to read up on that. And maybe honestly ask yourself, am I doing this to myself? Am I triggering things in my brain, either through, like I said, I don't make assumptions, but it could be anything. It could be chemical imbalances. It could be bad mushrooms on pizza. It could be drugs. It could be anything. And it could potentially be triggering these things in your head. So you might want to ask yourself that. Anyway,
and Deacon,
for that, I'll concede. Yeah.
Thank you so very much, Eric. And Deacon, hold on one second, and then I will let you.
I love you, Amy.
I love you so much too, Deacon.
Thank you, Deacon.
We just gotta let James go to sleep, and then we're gonna let everyone get their individual outros. Exactly. And so, all right, that has been our Skeptic and Ranting, the Tower of Babel. This has been our panel, and that means we are... Woo! Thank you so much, James. We have been Skeptic and Ranting on the Tower of Babel. It's great to see our producer Gizmo saying hi as when we're saying bye. I got to rhyme twice in a row. James, what are your final thoughts?
Just want to thank everybody for coming on. Thank you for the gentleman Deacon who was just on, first time on the show. Great to have you on. Thank you, Eric. Also, first time on the show. Loved having you on. A lot of great points. Thanks so much. Mark, great to have you back, Mark.
Good to see you. Yeah.
Great things going on your channel. You're growing. You're putting out good content. So continue doing the devil's work. You're doing a great job. And yeah, good night, everybody. Have a great night. We'll be back maybe in the weekend. Sunday, maybe.
Absolutely.
Good night, James.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Night, James. Thank you so very much for having fun. And all right, we're going down the list. I probably should have added him. It's in Amy 20 minutes ago. Listen, welcome to Skeptic and Ranting. Our intro, outro. We have been talking the Tower of Babel. But please, by all means, say whatever is on your mind. What are your thoughts about anything we've been talking about tonight?
Well, sorry I got here so late. I didn't realize you were going to have open mic, or I would have tried to have been better at getting on with you guys. But I was just going to talk to you about some of the theology of the Tower of Babel. It might have just been interesting for you guys to hear it. Not that it would convince you of anything, but as sort of the theology guy, I thought it would have been fun to go back and forth with you about it. But sorry I got here so late and I kind of missed my chance.
Not at all. Thank you once again. I saw you were on our last episode too, I think. And so listen, we are going to have more fantastic panels. We're going to get you on and have a lot of fun. Thank you for being here, Dr. J.
You bet.
And all right. I just want to say personally to Deacon, it was lovely having you on. I will say, in the future, if you would like, this time slot right here can be yours, where we just say goodbye to everyone. But you did kind of say a goodbye there. So you said love. I'm sending love. The whole panel sends love to you. With that, we are going to Eric. Eric, it was lovely having you here with Skeptic and Ranting.
Thank you so much.
Talking about the Tower of Babel. But what we want to know is, where can people find you on your internet webs, and what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, thank you. So my final thoughts are Tower of Babel is a bullshit story. I'm sorry, Christians. Yeah, but no, I enjoy engaging with religious folks. I like asking them questions. And Deegan, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us, and especially in front of an audience. That takes courage and bravery and getting outside of your circle of comfort. So you're to be commended for that. And I appreciate the honest answers to my questions. So thank you so much. Mark actually pinned my channel up at the top of the chat. My channel is called Skeptics and Scoundrels. I fell ass backwards into a bunch of subscribers due to a lucky hit with one of my videos. So I'm still very new to this whole thing. But yeah, come over and check me out. I'm planning on doing more live streams. I've been playing around the live stream, an idea of a live stream for Monday night street epistemology. So hopefully be starting that here pretty soon. And I should have some more prepared content here shortly. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so very much. That's right. Mark sent that in chat. Everyone should go and check that out. And Eric, thank you for coming on, and keep on coming on. Listen, it's a rhyming night. The rhymes don't have to be good. And okay, we are going on to Mark. We're skeptic and ranting on the Tower of Babel. Please tell people what you got going on the interwebs, and what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, hi, I'm Mark Reid. I'm a counter apologist, and I do mostly debates and interviews of people. I just want to say, Eric, that was some amazing sort of street epistemology laid down there. You know, that's really impressive.
Oh, thank you.
And really, no, just you know, I want to thank Deacon as well, because you know, I have heard I've got a bit of a reputation to be scary. So, you know, I'm not as scary as I am in debates. I can have discussions. So I'm trying to let people know I'm not as scary as you might think I am. I think I was in Proverbs guy's room, and he said, "Oh, I thought you were a complete asshole." And it's like, well, you know, it's in a debate. You can kind of come across that way, but that's not how I engage with it. Anyway, I'm not as scary as I seem. You can talk to me. It's fine. But yeah, so on the Tower of Babel, we've got sort of another case where you have a story that is in conflict with what we know about the area, and what we know about sort of what happened, and what we know about linguistics, what we know about a lot of different things. And so in order to sort of make it work, you've got to come up with all of these explanations. You've got to come up with all of these stories, and it still sort of doesn't work. There's no reason to believe any holy book when its story is so in conflict with what we know about the world, and what we know about, you know, the even down to genetics, the way that people sort of populated the world at the time, and even internally, like an internal critique where you sort of go, well, how did 8 people end up being, you know, hundreds of thousands to create this tower? There is no good answer. You've got to sort of plug the holes here and there. So, I mean, the story might be meaningful, or it might be some sort of hyperbole or metaphor on the way that things happened in the area. And that's fine. I've got no problem with that. But what we know is it didn't actually happen for real as the Bible describes. And that's true of a lot of different stories. The Garden of Eden, the flood, all of these kind of religious stories, that they are mythology. They're explaining to people how the world came about in which they live. And unfortunately, we know that they aren't literal stories of how the world came about, because we kind of understand how the world came about now. So, you know, no reason why you can't have your stories, but just understand they are stories, that they're not real. You know, and there's no reason why we should think that all languages will run and all of this other stuff. But thank you for having me on. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks, Amy. Thank you, James. It's absolutely a pleasure to see you again. It's been way too long. It's entirely my fault. But yeah, and thank you for Deacon coming on. Thank you, Dr. J, coming on. And thank you, Eric. It was fantastic.
Woo-hoo. Thank you so very much, Mark. Keep on coming on, and go check out all of his amazing debates. See, it's amazing. It's funny of me to even think of you as scary, but I guess
I know,
try
and
just
right?
hold people to the feet when it's like a question, maybe you get.
Well, I mean, they see my debates and go, "Oh, that guy's just attacking for no reason and stuff." And it's like, no, it's a debate. That's the name of the game. That's what you're supposed to do. Like, it's yeah.
Back forth, back forth, back forth.
Cool.
Yeah, I think you're great in debates.
Oh, how dare you, Eric? How dare you?
Sending love to everybody in chat. I do want to just point out that there people from Australia and New Zealand don't exist. They are NASA funded robots. I guess I'm just gonna add in the last part for some reason. And yes, birds are also not real. Good campaign.
Yeah.
He made a TED Talk eventually. Go check out the TED Talk.
Dude, what?
With that, I want to thank you all for joining us on this episode of Skeptic and Ranting, Misfits and All, the Tower of Babel, as we watched a video from the channel Studio 215. Not the unofficial, not the knockoff. This was Studio 215 official. Listen, you have to, it's like the brand name. No one wants the other brand Cinnamon Toast Crunch, I guess. Anyway, called Genesis, Chapter 11, the Tower of Babel Bible Study. For a good time, worth falling over. Though, I do want to thank my co-host, James W., along with Mark, Eric. I was going to say Duncan. It's Deacon. And Dr. J. Woo! As well as all the lovely people in chat, our awesome mods who make this stream so great. Titan, always watching. And lovely viewers like you who make this channel even possible. If you enjoy the show, please don't forget to, you probably hear it in your sleep. I know I do. Like, follow, subscribe. Like, follow, subscribe. I said it. Please, TOS, please. Then hit the bell icon to all so you can join our live streams. Or, hey, I haven't made fun of this person for a while because they were kind of nicer. Or, hey, leave a comment once the video's done. You can also leave a super thanks. And we'll read it back, or we change. We'll read it back, but we love you. We love everybody. The shilling never ends. And when the show is done, the Skeptic and Ranting Discord server opens up, the description of which is in below. He was talking more about all of those Discord debates. Also, we're on Discord. I was going to say tomorrow, Sunday. Go check out Randolph Richardson's stream. We're doing it here now. And go check out T-Jump. Sending love to Ix, Taco, everybody. Along with our fantastic channel members, with our evolving badge system, evolution triggers them. Though the best way to help us make even more content and unique perks is to listen to me do clack sounds. Wickety clack. Patreon. It's not shilling if you do this in jazz hands. At patreon.com/AV I can't say my own name. I'm AV Newman, and we will see you all on the next episode of Skeptic Ball Z. Good night.